Good afternoon. We will call the City of Riviera Beach City Council Budget Workshop to order August 30th, 2021 at 6:07 p.m. We will have the roll call. Madam Clerk.
Mayor Ronnie Felder, Chairperson Shirley Lanier,
Here.
Chair Pro Tem Kashamba Miller Anderson,
Present.
Councilperson Trodrick McCoy,
Here.
Councilperson Douglas Lawson,
Here.
Councilperson Julia Botel,
Here.
City Manager Jonathan Evans,
Present.
City Clerk Claudine Anthony is present, City Attorney Don Nguyen.
Here.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. We will have a moment of silence and the Pledge of Allegiance by Dr. Botel.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We will have an introduction and the purpose of this budget workshop. Mr. Evans.
Good evening, Madam Chair and members of the board. This evening's session is to continue through the goals and objectives for each of the departments and highlighting some of the significant accomplishments. So in order for us to make it through the 32 slides that we have today, we're going to jump right into the presentation, and the first department that will be up sharing their 2021 highlights and accomplishments, and then their fiscal year 2022 goals will be the Parks and Recreation Department led under Director Richard Blankenship.
Good evening, Council, City Manager, Richard Blankenship, Parks and Recreation Director. I'll try to get it to our 2021 highlights and accomplishments for this past year has been to host events that help the tourist economy of the city. That's one of the things that Parks and Recreation can do to bolster the economy, is host events with heads in beds and people coming in and spending money briefly. They're not impacting the infrastructure. Another accomplishment was created the Urban Farm Project along with some other partners. That project has proven to be very fulfilling in the fact that they're generating a lot of food. We will bring the contracts to you Wednesday night for the CDB grant so that we can really kick it in and start affecting the community. Some of our accomplishments in great neighborhoods was we conducted the Mlk Celebration under restrictions but with success. Ms. Franks and her staff did a wonderful job along with Ms. Noel in putting together a parade and the movie nights, and the celebration went on. It was a little bit different, but it was very successful. We facilitated virtual senior programming. The seniors were the first ones that started calling us in October saying, okay, we want something to do. And Ms. Gwen and her staff put together virtual bingo, virtual dance, virtual arts and crafts, and that was very successful. Ms. Franks and her staff also developed and implemented the reopening procedures for programs and facilities. That was a daunting task. We had no idea what we were walking into, but they did a wonderful job, and you know, it was successful. And then we conducted the front porch fireworks for the second year.
Excuse me, let me stop you right there. Mr. Evans, do we have this information from last year? It would be good to see the last year versus this year on the highlights and the accomplishments.
From 2020
Yes.
to 2021?
Yes.
We can provide that to the board.
Thank you. Sorry about that, Mr. Blake.
That's okay. Operational excellence. You know, even though we were in the middle of a pandemic, the grass continued to grow, the parks continued to need maintaining, the facilities continue to need that. But on top of that, we were able to be very supportive of the food distribution, the vaccination operations. We were lucky enough to have staff that we could place at different facilities to do the temperature screenings and the checking in of the public and of employees. As far as the government stewardship goes, we were awarded 2 grants this year, one for Monroe Heights Park and one for Goodmark Park. So we should have contracts for those shortly, and we'll be able to go in there and start making some improvements. And then community engagement, we completed the Parks Master Plan public outreach, which in my opinion is the most important element of a Parks Master Plan, is getting the public's input. Our 2022 goals, we want to host 24 events in the city this year that will put heads in beds, that will affect the local economy. Under Great Neighborhoods, develop and implement Centennial Celebration Plan. Now, with the uptick in positive cases right now, that we're kind of rethinking that and looking at it a little differently, but we will celebrate the 99th and then the 100th birthday of the city, one way or the other. Provide comprehensive outdoor guided and self-guided wellness opportunities in city parks. One of the main outcomes of the public outreach was folks want a reason to get outside and be healthy and increase their wellness opportunities. Increase youth and adult tennis programs, expand the baseball program, work with partners to develop youth culture programs, and then expand the urban farm programming, meaning not planting of the seeds, but implementing the urban agricultural plan. Operational excellence, we'll have a busy year with completing our Lone Pine, Dan Calloway, Monroe Heights, and Goodmark Park improvements.
Just a quick question. That softball game we had was so good. Are we going to do those on a regular basis?
Madam Chair, if I may?
Yes, go ahead.
Yes, after the injuries are healed, we will, yeah, we're going to look to do something quarterly that changes sports and activities so persons can participate from all walks of life in the community. But
Great,
yes.
thank you.
Yeah, I agree. That was good. You're correct, Mr. Evans.
sore.
I'm hurt. Not from that, my feelings, though, from the fire department.
Under government stewardship for 2022, we want to fully implement TPAR, which is the Tyler Parks and Recreation module of the Tyler Munis program, so that finally folks can go online and do their business in parks, pay their fees, get the information. And that's a major goal for this year, is to fully implement that program. Community engagement and empowerment, commence community planning for the highest prioritized issues coming out of the master plan. Create more volunteer and different volunteer opportunities within the department. We have a lot of volunteers are the pillar of Parks and Recreation. We have a lot of volunteers, but we need to expand that in different areas. And then to complete the master plan visioning. Now, we've pushed this out a little bit because of the uptick in COVID, but we will have that visioning completed hopefully in October. That concludes my presentation. I'll answer any questions anyone may have.
Madam Chair.
Yes, go ahead.
Mr. Blankenship, so the operational excellence, the improvements that are needed at Lone Pine and Danny Calloway, are they a part of some sort of, I guess, maintenance plan or capital plan, or can you speak to that?
Yep. The improvements at Dan Calloway are strictly taking out old furnishings and putting in new furnishings, upgrading where things are rotten or where things need maintenance. That's more of a maintenance-related grant. Lone Pine is recreational trails grant, so we will put in a trail, which is basically a sidewalk around the park for exercise, and then we'll upgrade other elements of the park. The Dan Calloway grant was also a part of how we were able to change all the court lighting to LED. So that was done as a part of that grant too. So Dan Calloway is mostly maintenance. Lone Pine is new development, if you will.
Okay. All right, and I guess the regular assessment of the improvements and maintenance, is that done in your department, or is that a part of the master plan?
Regular assessment of maintenance would be done in my department.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, and I mean, aside from these 4, that's all that you foresee for the upcoming fiscal year?
For the upcoming fiscal year, but we'll apply for more when the next cycle comes around for applications.
But isn't maintenance already encompassed in your regular operating
Day-to-day
budget?
maintenance is, yes.
I'm sorry?
Day-to-day maintenance is.
Okay, but not large expenditures and capital items.
Right.
Okay, all right, thank you, Madam Chair.
Madam Chair,
Yes, go ahead.
thank you. Mr. Blankenship.
Yes, sir.
The park over at Lone Pine, there were discussions with the residents there about leveling the park. I know we're going to be using the grant to actually put the trail in, but were there any other improvements scheduled or slated?
The leveling of the park, the adding of the trail, the adding of some exercise equipment, expanding the playground, replacing the benches and trash cans, and upgrading the tennis court. That's the scope of work for the, there's actually two grants for Lone Pine. One is the trail, and one is the regular FERDAP, Florida Development Grant.
Expected timeline on that?
It's underway right now.
Oh, it's on the way right now?
Yeah,
Do we have a
the
possible
trail
completion date?
development, the trail construction is out to bid, and we have received the bids back, and procurement is evaluating them. So hopefully, if everything's good, we'll come back to you with approval to do the work.
Perfect. And if everything goes perfect, could we get like emailed out to us a timeline on the expected completion of that trail? I know that
Yes.
they've been adamant about reaching out.
Once I get the evaluation from procurement, I'll be more comfortable in putting a timeline together.
Perfect. And then second thing was expansion of the urban farming program. I see that's on there as a potential item to expand the program. What are your ideas or visions for that expansion? One of the things in talking to a few people with that program are the produce, having a distribution center or location for the produce to actually be given to our residents. And then also the harvesting of the produce. There's certain times and seasons that we're going to have an influx of certain vegetables. So what is our plan and strategy with moving that forward?
Well, one of the first things that we'll do is create, for lack of a better term, a farmer's market, so that the public can come to Barracuda Bay on Saturdays. We'll have tables set up. They can come in and get what they need. But the other thing is to take the agricultural plan out into the community. We envision being able to provide residents with tree saplings or some type of vegetation that they can, fruit trees or whatever that they can put in their yard.
Yeah.
And some education to, we got 3 schools right there. Some education to the schools, to the kids about nutrition, how to grow, how what it means to have a sustainable food source.
Yes, sir. Okay, and then the last thing, I attended the Pop Warner football games this past weekend, and then I also attended 2 of the high school games. I noticed that we weren't charging patrons to coming into the games, and one of the staffers said that normally the charge is what pays for like the referees and the cost. There were a lot of residents out there, and I know that we're not creating, or we're trying our very best to remain within CDC guidelines to not create any super spreader situations, but looking at creative options of how to actually still charge that nominal fee for the guests that are coming, because I want to make sure that we're not, affecting our budget because we decided we're not going to charge. And I know the safest thing is for us to probably go virtual or just go wireless, to figure out a way of maybe using a barcode, scan code, Cash App, Zelle, any type of option where they can just kind of virtually pay for it.
Yeah, we made that decision late last week, just not to charge, so we didn't create big gatherings and stuff. But I know the high schools are using Eventbrite.
Yep.
Or some other.
They use,
And we'll look into that.
I believe Palm Beach Lakes was using a QR code. You literally just walked up, scanned it, and you could buy your ticket. It took 2 seconds. So I think if we implement that process, we would not lose that revenue, because from my understanding, we have a substantial amount that comes in. Even though the charge is minimal, it's still a lot of guests that come in from out of town to watch their kids play, and with there being 5 games during the day, that can substantially cover all the expenses for that day. So I don't want that to start to hit us over the next couple weeks while we have the remaining 5 home games.
I think we're away this week, but I think hopefully by next week we can have a touchless system in place.
Perfect. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Madam Chair,
Yes, go ahead, sir.
so has it been decided from the department that we will be charging for these recreational activities? Or is that a suggestion? I'm not sure if I
That
understand.
we will be charging?
Yeah.
We have charged.
Oh, we did?
We typically do charge. We didn't this past Saturday for the entry to the games because we didn't want to create a gathering, a mass of people there paying, because we're charging $2 or $3. There's a lot of exchange of change and that kind of stuff. We just didn't want to create a bad situation, so we didn't charge, so people could, all they had to do was get their bag scanned and go in. But we would like to implement a touchless system.
Okay, I'm sorry. I didn't even, my apologies, I didn't even know we charged for those kind of activities, but okay.
And follow up, Madam Chair.
Go ahead.
Thank you. And to that point, for Councilman McCoy's point, that revenue, that nominal fee is like $2 or $3, like you said. But
Right.
that's looking at a revenue of anywhere between $1,500 and $2,000 because we have in-and-out guests or in-and-out residents and actual visitors that are coming from other cities, and that can be anywhere between 500 to 1,200 people. They said that on the average, they have about 1,500 people that come out there to the games during the entire day. So that minimal fee pays for the referees, pays for some of the overhead and costs that we have. So it's just, I don't want it to start to affect our budget because those 5 games with those additional revenues is going to be an additional probably $5,000 to $10,000 depending on the cost of referees, supplies, uniforms, things like that. That's what it helps with the cost is.
And that's what we pay, basically offsets the cost of hosting
Right.
referees and the like.
Yeah, if we could find out a way, even though it's only a $2 fee, if we can find out something that's going to be cost effective.
I'm sure we'll be
Because then also the QR code, there's some of them have fees that are associated to them. So I don't want us to be charging $2 or $3 and then losing, a couple percent on fees just because we're trying to make it, we want to make it as safe as possible, but we want to make it as cost effective as possible. Thank you, Mr. Blankenship. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Yes. Any other questions? I have a couple of questions. The first one is that in your 2022 goals, you talk about work with partners to develop your youth cultural arts programming. What does that mean?
Well, to me, that means theater.
No, what does it mean to the city, not to you? What does that mean to
That we would
people?
create some cultural arts programs. That we would have theater, music, dance. We have a great dance program, but it's one type of dance. We can expand it to other types of dance to give kids, residents, more opportunities than just football and basketball. But we would need partners to do that because that's not our expertise.
Okay, and then when you talk about government stewardship, fully implement the TPAR model of Tyler for Parks and Recs. I don't know what that means.
TPAR is the Tyler Parks and Recreation module online. So right now, if you wanted to register for something, or to the point of paying to get into a football game, there's no way to go online and do that. TPAR is the module that we're implementing so that people can go on and register for any program, pay for any program. They can register, they can rent a pavilion, they can go on and do their business and not have to come to Barracuda Bay every time they want to do something. We're one of few communities in Palm Beach County that don't have this. We have it, we just need to implement it. And that's going to take a little bit of time. But that's our goal, is to get that fully implemented this year so that folks can go online and do the majority of what they need to do.
Very good. Any other questions? Parks and Recs? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Evans?
Madam Chair and members of the board, the next presenter is going to be, Library. Director Rodney Freeman will make the presentation.
This is for the library? Oh, okay.
Yes. Good evening. How you guys doing? I'm Director Rodney Freeman, and I'm here to present for the library and for our FY 2021 objectives and performance measures. We started off with supporting through system-wide participation in a countywide job sharing program. So we had entered into a MOU, or we're going to enter into an MOU with the Career Source to basically provide space so they can come in and provide employment resources and career resources in the library. We also maintain an agreement with Vita Tax Services of the United Way for our residents. With this, since the building was closed last year, we opened 3 satellite locations. One was at the Brooks Center, the other one was at Lindsay Davis, and then the other was in Singer Island. On our Lindsay Davis satellite location, we was able to still provide those tax services in February. For great neighborhoods, we review and analyze alternate locations to relocate the library. So this was completed In July, we opened up the new building, which was a co-location with the library and the youth empowerment program. Maintain and sustain current collections of materials. So this was a good one because we had over 50,000 items, and we had to touch each item to RFID tag the item. Basically, we weeded collections. We weeded materials that were old and dingy, and then some we did donate. Some we used through a buyback program with Baker and Taylor, and we were able to weed out materials that were not utilized, looking at statistics. And what we did, we put the RFID tag, so that enabled us to enhance our security gates and also utilize our self-checkout at the new library location. Let's see, operational excellence. We ensured that a security presence during normal operation hours, that's being done now currently. Monitor revisions to policies related to patron and staff safety and ongoing. We basically were able to do this by reviewing our policies in-house and making sure that they're updated and they're also in line with the city and council policies as well. Government stewardship and accountability. Cooperate with library support groups in their efforts to enhance existing services. So we are involved with this reciprocal borrowing group, Palm Beach County. So if you are wanting to get a library card from a different library county, from a different library in the county, you're able to come to Riviera Beach and pick up a card there, and vice versa. You're able to go to one of those libraries and pick up a card and use their services. All right. So we also evaluate options to address existing workplace needs. We went through basically our operations when we were at the old locations and now our operations at the new locations to make sure that we have, the staff have what they need to make sure that they're on the desk and off the desk, and also providing access when patrons are coming in looking for information. So community engagement and empowerment, participate and encourage library patrons and civic organizations in Riviera Beach. With this was a good opportunity for us to do later on this year once the library opened up. We do have a plan actually in our FY 2020 goals. That actually is going to be our 5-year strategic plan. So we do have plans of programs and services that we want to offer into this year and going forward. Promote the use of our library facilities for outside meetings. Of course, as soon as our library opened up, our new library opened up, we're out there pushing that they can use the public conference room for meetings and some of the other facilities like the testing lab and the training room. And moving on to our FY 2020 goals. So I want to preface this by saying that we have a strategic plan that will actually be coming to you on Wednesday for your approval of our 5-year strategic plan. So last year, we extended it, and this year we were to complete a 5-year strategic plan. So that's where these goals are coming from. Design, implementation, plan, and schedule for a new permanent facility. That we have kind of worked out with a consultant that we use, which will be at the presentation on Wednesday, that will kind of go through our process of how we got to these goals, but also the small objectives and accountabilities that we have in our work document. Design and implementation of a market research strategy that includes input from all library and community stakeholders. This was really important because we wanted to make sure that when we plan our services, that we're getting everybody on the same page and we're hearing everybody's voices of what type of services they want to see from their library in Riviera Beach. Riviera Beach is unique. It's a system library. Even though it's one building, it's still a system library. We still service the whole city, so we want to make sure that we're hearing all voices throughout the whole city when we plan our programs and services. All right. Invest in enhanced technology. So with this, we brainstormed a lot of different ideas. We actually were saying that what we can do with this, we were saying we can put out book vending machines to service the community. Of course, we talked about opening up satellite locations, but what technology will we need to actually achieve this goal? So that's all in our working document as well. We also talked about acquiring a new ILS down the road as well, so we can make sure that we have current up-to-date data and stats. Implement an effective communication strategy. That's one of the things that we found that was lacking when we did programs, us being able to push those out. So we, of course, talking to the city departments, talking to the city administration and letting them know what we're doing, but also making sure that we have our plans in place 3 months in advance. So when we're ready, we can let our communication department know, we can let our colleagues know that we have these plans and we want to see people come in and utilize these programs. Create and maintain strong collaborative partnerships with mutual benefit. This was a big deal. We wanted to make sure that it wasn't one-sided, where we actually partnered with community organizations and we have mutual benefit. They're getting benefit as long as we're getting our name out there as well. So, but that concludes my presentation. Any questions that I might answer?
Madam Chair.
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you. A couple of thank yous. First, thank you for allowing April Giles and Erica Grant to work on it's Grant, right? Yes, to work on the oral history project.
Oh, yeah.
I think they're as excited about it as I am.
Oh, yeah.
It's
Oh, yeah.
wonderful, and their enthusiasm is just great. And also thank you for allowing us to have a career source site there. We're very, very pleased that we're going to have a place right there in Riviera Beach at our library where people can go and get help with jobs. I have a question about the current location. Is there any thought being given to keeping that current location, even when we have a permanent location, keeping that as like a satellite for the more western part of the city? Is that something that we're thinking about?
I will turn that over to Mrs.
Mr. Evans?
Madam Chair, if I may, we've had some internal discussions at the staff level and think that that facility is still an optimal facility for the city to retain and possibly look to see it serve as a community center. What those operations or elements and components in there, that is up for discussion. But I think also Ms. Grimsley is looking to expand her programming, and so that may become like the youth center or the teen center or what have you. So, but we think there is a lot of value to retaining that particular parcel.
It's a beautiful place. Thank you.
Any other questions for the library?
One question.
Go ahead.
So, Mr. Freeman, you spoke of the 5-year strategic plan that's going to come before the board. I guess from an operational standpoint, is that typical that the governing body decides the 5-year operational strategic plan for the library?
So for per state aid, all libraries have to have the strategic plan. What we do is we come up with it and then we submit it to you guys for approval.
Follow up.
Go ahead.
So has it always been the case with the city's library that has been approved by the
From my
city
understanding,
council?
yes.
Okay, well, it's a first for me, so I kind of thought it was, I know we do it on a much larger citywide focus, but okay, that was kind of new information that I've never heard, so thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions in regards to the library goals or accomplishments for 21-22? Thank you, sir, for your presentation.
All right.
Mr. Evans?
Madam Chair, at this time, we'd like for our Information Technology Director, Mr. Chris Prasad, to make the presentation.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, council members, Ms. Nguyen. So IT's been busy. The pandemic is definitely a changed world, and IT's been busy through the whole setup of everything. So I'll give you some of the highlights of what IT has done recently. So we've done several cybersecurity type initiatives to get us where we need to be. One of the big ones we did right after Christmas, we implemented a cybersecurity tool, has artificial intelligence, so we kind of know where employees are doing, and if we see something out of the ordinary, it alerts us, and we're like, hey, that person shouldn't be doing that. So that's the first thing we did. For great neighborhoods, the marquee in front of City Hall looks amazing. I'm kind of bummed that Barron Signs is moving out for Amazon right now, but we worked very closely with Barron Signs, got the sign up. So that's what we did for great neighborhoods. We did the Wi-Fi spot at the City Hall as well. And on Wednesday, you'll have the CDBG grant coming in, where it's going to be some parks are going to be included in that, so you'll see that on Wednesday. Operational excellence, we modified the city's...
Go back. You said some parks included. You meaning Wi-Fi spots?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. So for operational excellence, we modified the city's existing business for COVID-19 pandemic, which is pretty understandable given the situation with a lot of remote workers and a lot of remote employees and figuring out different situations. One of the things that we've done is we helped implement the Code Red software, where it basically is now handed over to communications and they kind of do the alerts and all the notifications. We still act as a backup if any urgent situations come up as well. One of the other things we're implementing at this point is the Granicus Peak for the agenda software that you guys all use on a weekly basis, or even probably more than that. But we're implementing the Granicus Peak software. We're doing trainings right now internally, but all the technology pieces on the back end have all been done. We worked all those details out with a vendor, and everything is ready to go for that. One big implementation we did as well was we upgraded the Kronos timekeeping software for citywide for all employees. Just so you have this, they were running an outdated version. It was Flash version is what it was, and basically there's a lot of security flaws in there, so we didn't want to have that sitting on our network. We work with finance closely, and we got that upgraded, so now it's up to industry standards. Government stewardship and accountability. So IT, a lot of things with IT go into audits. So we've addressed all the audit findings that are outstanding right now at this point. I think there's another one coming up for this fiscal year that has already been released that's still outstanding. But everything's been addressed. We've sent things out. We do want to expand on some of them a little further in the future, but right now we feel we're in a good spot. Community engagement and empowerment. So we worked closely with Chief Curd and the rest of the COVID team to get the vaccine hotline out. We helped with the scheduling. We assisted with the data entry when it was necessary, and whatever it took, basically. It's what Chief Curd would say, it's a zero-fail mission under Mr. Evans' leadership as well. And we launched the new city's website. So those are some of the major accomplishments that we accomplished this fiscal year. I'll go into some of the goals for next year. So one of the things is, with the pandemic, one of the things is we want to be more technologically sound. So we've implemented Microsoft Teams across the city. We want to expand it even further to get more people using it for different functions. We use GoToMeeting, we use other things. Teams is all-encompassing, it ties into our email system. So a couple things we're doing is getting the employees set up so the employee accounts move over in a sync with Microsoft so we can have that totally cloud-based and moving forward. For great neighborhoods, I just mentioned the CDBG will come to you Wednesday, so that'll be some of the public parks. One of the things that's important to me, I think it's important to the police officers, is they're running dated hardware right now in the police cars, so we want to get those for the actual sworn officers to get them up to a newer device. Working with Mr. Sherman's team as well to get that funding.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that? What's that you're trying to do in the police?
So the laptops in the police cars, they're still usable and they're still functioning very well. However, they're getting towards the end of life, and we don't want to have a situation where a safety issue comes up because of a laptop. We don't want to be in that predicament. So we want to make sure those are updated to the latest technology right One of the things for operational excellence, we want to develop a cybersecurity awareness training plan. So right now, we're just kind of notifying employees of different cyber risks out there, but we want to actually do a full plan where they actually kind of take a course, go through it, and be, our biggest weakness is always the person at the desk. If they click the wrong link or they do something incorrectly, we want to educate them to make sure they're up to date. And I'll just be honest, the staff is really good here. I mean, we've done a really good job. I think the incident that happened in 2019 has really brought everybody's heightened awareness up, and it's done very well. But we still want to do better. We still want to go forward. Mobile device policy to stay connected. So we're looking at our cell phones and seeing if there's a way we can get a better price for it, basically. We want to try to see if there's any way to get a better price than what we're currently paying. We're working with some vendors to help us right now. We're currently with AT&T FirstNet, and it's working very well, and they give us the government price, so that's working very well. But we'd like to see if we can expand that further to see if there's any additional cost savings in there as well. And another piece that's important is we're doing a desk phone upgrade. So currently, the desk phones haven't been upgraded for over 10 years. So we just did firmware updates on them to get them up to date, so they were lower the security risks on the desk phones. However, we need to expand that further now and actually get the desk phones replaced and do different things with those as well. With that, I'd be happy to take any questions.
Let me ask a question about the Microsoft Teams. I know that there's like Zoom and WebEx and GoToMeeting, so why Microsoft Teams?
So Microsoft Teams is already included with our agreement, so there's no additional cost to it. It does some other features as well. It'll give you like a fictitious number to call from, so if you kind of want to just say, I don't want this person calling me back, or whatever those things are. So you have a lot of different things out there. And it's not meant to be fictitious, I should say. The fictitious number is more of a general number, I should say.
I see.
Wait, Madam Chair. So we're going to use that, so we don't want folks to call us back at the
No, I didn't mean it that way.
No, I know what you meant, that, yeah.
Yeah, because every once in a while you've got spam callers, and if you have a vendor you're working with all the time and they're just selling your number everywhere, it's better to give that fictitious number out to a vendor, so that way, I get cold calls all day, all the time, so.
Yep. I agree.
I did not mean it that way.
No. Thank you so much. Any other information, any other questions for IT? Thank you, sir, for your presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you. And the next presenter, I believe, is the Human Resources Department, and I believe Deputy City Manager Elizabeth McBride will make this presentation.
Good evening, Madam Chair and members of the council. I'm here tonight on behalf of Human Resources. Would you switch to the Human Resources slide? Where we're supposed to provide us? Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Okay. There we are. Thank you. Okay. The 2021 highlights and accomplishments for this office. So it's a very I find it to be a relative small office. They did achieve quite a few things for this last fiscal year to date. Under the area of operational excellence, they helped facilitate the hiring of 55 new employees. They advertised 61 positions. They commenced the implementation of software to aid in the streamlining of applicant tracking that is in progress, and they are continuing to monitor and try to improve that system. 2 staff members became SHRM certified, and 2 obtained the Florida Public and Employees Labor Relations Association certification. They also submitted—
What does that SHRM mean? I'm
Pardon?
sorry. What does that SHRM mean?
SHRM, S-H-R-M.
What is it
But
called?
it's for Human Resource Certification.
Oh,
Okay, it's a Society of Human Resource Management, I'm sorry.
all
Okay.
right.
Now, let me see where, and We have here an employee handbook that we continue to review, edit, and finalize. We had a meeting today with the incoming HR director, and we will continue to work with her that so that it's one of the first things that will come out for review upon her arrival, which we hope, once that is completed and reviewed by directors and all the input is received, we will put it on the website. That will also grant employees other access to it. And within the handbook, we will have created, working with IT, links that will bring up applicable policies and other things that might be referenced in the handbook. They've started to implement procedures for improving the onboarding process of employees and for the termination process of employees. Some of the termination process was addressed when we created the separation, termination, and job abandonment process. We were able to iron a lot of that out. They also initiated the conversion of paper-based personnel files to electronic personnel files. This is currently in progress with all the files being scanned for this process. This year we completed the performance appraisals of city employees. They also helped the manager implement a formal process for the evaluation of department directors. And as always, they coordinated the open enrollment for employees' benefits this year, coordinated employee health fairs. I think it had about 2 this year. Coordinated and managed the transition of sworn police officers who chose to move to the Florida retirement system. They arranged for and managed the Code of Ethics training. And they helped coordinate the employees' elections for appointments to the police and general employees' pension boards. And really, the general employees' pension, both of those boards are very active and working well. They coordinated the annual sexual harassment training. They participated in the contract negotiations, not only with SEIU, but also, I know, fire negotiations were occurring when I arrived last year before it ended at the beginning of the fiscal year. On the government stewardship and accountability, you see there are quite a few policies that were passed and approved by the manager that they took the lead on for this past fiscal year. They involve reporting fraudulent acts, payment, overpayment, and underpayment of wages policy, reporting arrests and convictions, the separation, termination, and job abandonment policy, the tuition reimbursement policy, the progressive discipline policy. They coordinated through our benefits area the implementation of Bentex, which is software for insurance that was worked on with Gehring, our third-party administrator. We also had, at the beginning of the year, the Get Fit Challenge in conjunction with Aetna, and they developed a wellness program for staff. And through the fiscal year, they participated in 3 job fairs throughout the year. And I'm certain a lot of these goals will change and get expanded upon with the new director's arrival. In the area of operational excellence, they want to develop a talent management program. They should also develop a recruitment process and program, complete the review of all city job descriptions, and finalize and complete the employee handbook, complete risk management guidelines, make a document, and implement the employee performance appraisal system. On the government stewardship and accountability, hopefully work to achieve a reduction in claims through department educational meetings and the use of the safety committee. we will have in draft form a safety committee policy and a citywide safety committee that we hope to implement this fiscal year.
Madam Chair,
Yes, go ahead.
thank you. With regard to the employee performance appraisal system, will that include legislative aids? Will legislative aid, or do we have a rubric of some kind for evaluating our legislative aids?
I don't know if it will include legislative aids. I would check, and I can send an email to all of you tomorrow through the manager.
Thank you.
Okay.
Madam Chair?
Go ahead.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Deputy Manager, Ms. McBride, I don't think I heard any conversation about Civil Service Board. What's going on with that committee?
Right now, positions, everybody's term has expired on the board. I think it's way over a year or two. All board members were requested to submit an application. It's been advertised, and they have to apply by September 1st. The clerk's office has been advertising. Did you hear me? I don't know.
I'm sorry, can
Could
you
you
say
hear?
that again?
We hope to bring that to the council at the September 15th meeting. To date, I think of the five appointed members by the council to the board, at least 2 have submitted an application, but they have until September 1st, which is Wednesday.
And if they don't, then what happens? Because typically, I thought all boards, or generally all boards that we've seen in the city, that a member is a member until a successor is,
Appointed.
okay,
That's what the ordinance provides.
okay. Well, I've got a number of inquiries about the Civil Service Board. Specifically, one of the appointees from District 1 asked me about it, and I said, I don't have an issue with it. I mean, I don't know much about, the convention or what's going on with it, how often they're meeting, but I just wanted to see if you could kind of speak to that.
I would say that it's probably not as active as it would have been years ago or historically. We have 2 civil service board, the general, and we had one for police and fire. Basically, police and fire does not operate anymore because they, for the most part, I would say, they choose to do arbitration pursuant to their collective bargaining agreement. You don't get a chance to agree but one way. Since I've been here, I have not had anyone have a hearing before our Civil Service Board. Right before I came, there was one, but not in the last fiscal year. Okay, they certainly approved the list, but there have been no hearings.
Madam Chair?
Go ahead.
So just changing gears for a moment. So exit interviews, are we doing those, or do we do those when an employee voluntarily leaves?
We try to.
I guess, is it a part of a policy? That's a better question as opposed to we try
I
to.
have to look to see what that, listen, we can't really mandate the person give us an exit interview. We certainly try to. That's how come I say we try to. For instance, employee left. Did I speak with them? Yes. Was it really an interview? I would not consider an interview.
I'm sorry, who is this?
I said I spoke with the employee who was leaving.
Oh,
Okay, did I perceive it to be an interview? No. Okay.
Madam Chair.
Yes, go ahead.
So I think it was either the manager, someone that I heard spoke of, I guess within the last year, maybe even the police chief that talked about 4 or 5 officers leaving the city to go to different agencies. So I guess, I want to understand from a department and also from a city standpoint, do we try to find out, if there's some change? Like I know we seen a letter from Director Freeman about another opportunity somewhere. Like what could we be doing as an organization to be better? So I guess in that term, are we inquiring in that nature?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Oh, absolutely. And as part of the exit process, the leave process, be it termination by us or the person voluntarily leaving, we certainly make attempts to collect certain data and all. And there are many factors that determine whether or not someone leaves voluntarily.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions in regards to HR? Now, you know, that with HR, the issue that I've had from the very beginning is the issue of people who apply for jobs at the city don't hear anything back from the city in regards to, you know, we got your application, we don't want you. I mean, anything to the people from the public who are applying for jobs at the city. Is there anything that has been instituted at the either computer level or person level that if a person applies for a job at the city, at least they'll know we don't want your application, or we received your application, or we didn't pick you, or anything from the HR department or from the city letting them know that they acknowledge that the person submitted an application?
Okay. Well, today, along with the assistant director, we had a long conversation with the incoming director. It apparently, according to some of the facts we see, especially with the initial application, when people apply, some of the responses, because the program we use, Applicant Pro, does send a person a letter saying we received your application. But apparently they are saying that often that goes into one's spam mail. So we do realize that is something we need to look at to see what is happening from that standpoint. But we also agree that once the process ends, there needs to be a letter, or there needs to be a letter to applicants, letting them know that a decision has been made. The new directives recommended that if the person is an employee of the city, that we would also do a call. So,
Yeah, and I'm hoping that happens because this has been 2.5 years, and I've asked this question from when I first walked in the door, because people have called me and still call me and say that they put an application in the city but have not heard anything since. And I'm hoping that we can look at least acknowledging people sending in applications, and even better, if a person is not chosen for the particular position, giving a letter saying that, no, we did not choose you. But anything that will acknowledge the effort of a person trying to apply for a job here at the city.
Madam Chair, if I may.
Yes, go ahead, sir.
With regards to that particular issue, the HR generalist has been in that position now for approximately, I think, a little over 4 months, and so that process is a standard process. If a person is interviewed or doesn't meet the qualifications, they do go through the Applicant Pro system to generate a response, and I know that.
And I'm going to stop you right there, because that has not happened. I know personally it has not happened. So that's why I'm asking. I'm not asking because of some that I think happened. I know this for a fact that has not happened recently.
okay.
So I just wanted to make sure that there is something in place that is going to address that once and for all.
Like I said, we had a discussion about this issue as part of our conference call this afternoon. The new director will be coming on September 20th, and this is on that list of things to get accomplished.
Please make sure that it is. Thank you. Any other questions for HR for this goals and accomplishments for 21-22?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Yes, go ahead, sir.
Thank you. Ms. McBride,
Yes, sir.
I was also in line with Madam Chair in reference to the communication. I've heard that our communication needs to be addressed when it comes to our applicants. So if we could just work that out with our new HR director and make sure that we have implemented a process with response to applications, feedback in regards to interviews, and just making sure that we give a good communication, because there's individuals that are applying for jobs and just saying they're not hearing back, and they're getting nothing. So even if it's just acknowledgement, receipt of application, or position's been filled, something like that, putting together a protocol to make sure that's addressed. The second thing was the retention program, public safety retention program. Years ago, there was a program that we had in place that was an incentive for our public safety officers. Is this something that we can look into to try to retain our public safety officers, to keep them? Because I know that we did say that we lost, I believe Councilman McCoy mentioned that we lost a few officers to other departments. Is there any incentives that we could look into putting in place to retain some of our public safety, first responders, and police?
I'm sure Chief Osgood would be happy to have that discussion and all. And, but also I think we have to, everything is about balance.
Yes.
And we lost most of these officers, to my understanding, to the sheriff office, who really pays a lot more than we do.
Yeah.
Okay. So,
Yes, ma'am. So,
Yeah.
yeah, we'll take a look at that and see what options we do have as a scenario. So thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Madam Chair.
Madam Chair,
Yes, go ahead.
did Ms. McBride review the 2022 goals?
the what now?
2022 goals.
No, I did not, but I will
Oh.
look at them. We have to be back tomorrow, and we can look at them.
That's not a part of the presentation tonight?
Yes,
No.
Madam- Yes, Madam
Was
Chair, the 2022.
Oh,
Yes,
yes, we did. I'm
yes.
sorry. We did go over to 2022. I thought you said 2020. Yes.
No, I won't jump that far ahead. Well, let me just ask about the talent management program. What do you all envision that program looking like? Or is it something that you'll be addressing with the new HR director?
Now, I think you, to be honest, I think you should address it with the new HR director.
Okay.
Because I don't claim to be an HR person,
No
and I
problem.
would not want to understate or overstate what they are envisioning for that exercise.
Okay, thank you so much.
Madam Chair?
Yes, go ahead, sir.
Just briefly with regards to the Tandem Talent Management Program, the intent behind it is to really rebrand the talent acquisition part of the human resources operation, to focus more on the active recruitment of persons for positions versus a situation where we're more passive and we have it where persons apply for a job and then we go through the interview process, is to seek out and make sure that we are in the right journals, in the right websites, that we're at the right conferences to go ahead and be more proactive, because the way the labor market is, it is really an employees market, and you have to be more active and more innovative with how you go out and attract, retain, and recruit the next generation, the next workforce. So it's looking at some private sector models and making sure that we're at the forefront and we are an employer of choice versus a situation where we just used to post a position and expect to get 200 to 300 positions or 200 and 300 applicants to apply for a position. That is not the case anymore. And so we're looking at some innovative, creative ways to rebrand the talent acquisition component of the Human Resources Department.
Thank you.
Any other questions for HR? Thank you for your presentation, ma'am.
I think,
Yes, Madam Chair, the next presentation will also be done by Ms. Elizabeth McBride, and it's for the Procurement Department.
Very good.
again, for the Procurement Department, we went back and I looked at their 2021 highlights and accomplishments. Under the prosperous, resilient, and sustainable economy area, they conducted four, as I went back to check, supplier outreach meetings to date. And those were held October 26th, December 6th, July 12th, and July 20th of this year. Through their outreach efforts, they believe that they increased the small women minority business enterprise participation and usage. Also, based upon the records of Demand Star, they think they increased the number of suppliers submitting solicitations to the city. Basically, there were 38 solicitations that were finalized and issued on behalf of the city and through Demand Star. Okay. For the great neighborhoods, they instituted citywide contracts to create a pool of contractors that would be available without having to go out for bid continuously in the area of plumbing, roofing, electrical services, HVAC, minor renovation and construction and demolition services. For operational excellence, the department utilized this year 2 new solicitations method. One, the invitation to negotiate. That one was utilized for Fire Station 88. And the request to qualify to create pools of suppliers. I think the request to qualify, one of the examples was the CRA attorney. I think that was utilized for that exercise. They conducted 20 training sessions for evaluation committees. They started implementing their contract modules in Tyler. And basically what that entails that they have to manually go in and input all their contracts into the Tyler system, which also then turn around and integrate it with B2G Now, that they can look at and they can make decisions about our possible subcontractors. They instituted a vendor self-service system where vendors can register online, go in and create a site and a password and register online. That is accessible through the Procurement Department webpage on the city website. For government stewardship and accountability, our staff attended 2 national, oh gosh, I can't think of the name of NIGP now. Government Procurement, National Institute of Government Procurement, what NIG stands for. And the Florida Association of Public Procurement Officers Conference to learn some of the latest things with outsourcing and best practicing. All right, the director at the time received training on construction law, also attended a Design Build Institute of America Water Treatment Design Building Conference. We worked with Attorney Franklin Lee to review this past year our procurement code and do have suggestions and modifications that we received from him, and we will continue to work through them with some of his recommendations. The staff has a draft procurement manual, which they really cannot be finalized until the code itself to ensure that there's nothing in the manual that would run afoul of what the code would provide. Also, for community engagement and empowerment, there were, no in-person sessions were held due to COVID. Okay. And again, I've already mentioned they conducted the 4 outreach events.
Let me ask you something. So when you guys have, I think it's probably not even anything to do with this, but when you have interviews now because of, COVID and stuff, do you guys do like more virtual? Interviews?
Well, more virtual, yes.
Yeah. Just
They
curious.
did, it seemed to me, and I was trying to remember, maybe Mr. Evans, maybe you can recall, with Fire Station 88, that might have been, was that in person? A lot of the other ones we did virtually.
Madam Chair,
Yes, go ahead.
most of the meetings are done in a hybrid format, so you have virtual and you have an in-person
Right.
operation or opportunity. So we've done, the larger solicitations have been both.
Okay,
Go ahead.
all right, okay. So the 2022 goals for the department, on the sustainable economy is to diversify and broaden our supplier base, and we hope that this will get accomplished through our consistent use of Demand Star. We, in the same time, will hope to increase small women minority business enterprise participation and usage, expand the competition and access to solicitations, okay, find and promote bidding opportunities for local firms, and also I would probably add possibly finalize our administrative procedure for commercial non-discrimination, and maybe that would go under government stewardship and accountability, possibly. Under great neighborhoods, maximize the use of cooperative agreements or piggybacks that allow departments to be reactive to community needs and shorten bidding cycles. Under operational excellence, to use technology to implement electronic submittal of proposals. We usually accept both now, but we always require that they submit the hard copy to the clerk's office for opening. Add more citywide contracts for all departments to utilize. And finally, fully implement the vendor self-service system to submit invoices and to see purchase orders. And a lot of that information will be viewed and utilized by our consultant for our disparity study. Under the government stewardship and accountability area, do a routine auditing of P-card purchases, and they do tend to do that, periodically audit the purchases on the P-card, that department. Review and consolidate purchases for economies of scale. Third, utilize contract entry module on Tyler to control spending and conduct spending analysis, which is good. And finally, for the area of community engagement and empowerment, participate in local, small, women, and minority business events. Second, attend reverse trade shows. And third, outreach to suppliers on city contract, continue outreach to suppliers on city contracts awards.
Madam Chair,
Yes, go ahead.
I just have a question. Could we just have a brief timeline of the work that Dr. Lee is doing on the disparity study, just so we know where we are, sort of generally, you know, as a whole, you know how deeply this council and board is committed to women and minority business hiring, especially local.
Well, you know, with the disparity study, there are several phases.
Yes.
Dr. Lee comes at the end because he's primarily there to make sure we've come up with a study that can be legal defensible. Right now, we have the group B2G now looking and scrubbing our data. They were supposed to present to us the other night. We have a conference call with them and the other consultant, Dr. Fred Seaman, next week, and we hope to get them back on the agenda in October so that they can give you an update. When they first did their presentation, the end of 2020, I think they were saying they needed at the minimum at least 2 years of data, if I remember, make some determination.
But
we hope to have them on one of your October board meetings.
We're actively working on that.
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
Mhm.
okay.
Yes.
Madam Chair?
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you. Ms. McBride, if we can just look to make sure that we have budgeted dollars for our study, being that it's 2 years of data that's required, I know that we're behind on collecting the data. Once Mr. Lee came in and we started working with the programmers to start collecting data, we're a little bit behind on that. But if we can start budgeting for the cost of study, because they are costly, and having that implemented into this year and next year's budget, we can look to make sure we have the funds available. So we're not just clamoring to put aside all of the funds in 1 year and prepare for that, the first thing. Mr. Lee has been active in regards to preparing, but he also comes in during the process because he's the one that actually recommended the data software company that we use. But also he looks at our code and looks at the opportunities of what small and local business programs can be implemented into our code as well. So taking a look at what options we have with keeping him on as a consultant or bringing him in to further update our code currently would probably be my recommendation. So if we could look to budget that in, because I don't want to wait till we've completed a study to really address some of the disparities within our program, within our procurement. So if we could budget that in as well and look at that option, because our entire council is focused on local minority and women businesses, so I want to make sure that we do the proper funding and process to address that. So I don't want to wait on Mr. Lee. I want him to be a part of the entire process the whole way.
All right.
Thank you,
And
Ms. McBride.
also, just an addition for the fiscal year 2022 goal,
Yes, ma'am.
Attorney Lee will be drafting the commercial non-discrimination policy that'll be
Yes.
coming to you. He will be drafting for legal and procurement to look at the administrative procedures to address the complaints
Yep.
related to that process.
Yeah, that was part of his process when we first met with him. So I think that he'll be an amazing tool for the city
Yes.
to continue to utilize the knowledge of things. Not just the study, but everything that we can do to prepare for the study and also in the interim, so that we can make sure that we're not dropping the ball on locals and minorities as well. So see if we can get that budget in during these next 1 to 2 years while we collect our data.
Okay,
Thank you, Ms. McBride. I appreciate it.
thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions for procurement? Thank you for your presentation. Mr. Evans?
Madam Chair, the next presenter is the city clerk. Ms. Claudine Anthony will be making this presentation.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board, Mr. Evans, Ms. Nguyen. I am Claudine Anthony, City Clerk for the City of Riviera Beach. And I am here to present the highlights and accomplishments as well as the goals for the Office of the City Clerk. Under Operational Excellence, you will see that the Office of the City Clerk provided parliamentary procedure training for you all, the elected officials, as well as others that wanted to attend. And during the height of the global pandemic, members of the Office of the City Clerk assisted in the efforts that were put forth by the city, as well as kept the daily operations of the Office of the City Clerk going on a daily basis, whether it's from home or in the office. The Office of the City Clerk also provided public records training to employees within the city and digitized 130 cubic feet of documents for our Development Services Department. Under Government Stewardship and Accountability, you will see that we completed and implemented the DocuSign software program, which utilizes electronic signatures, making it easier to obtain signatures at a moment's notice, as you all know, when it comes down to signing notices for our special city council meetings and things of that nature. We've also assisted with converting multiple previously posted documents into ADA compliant documents. Those documents you see on the city clerk's website where it says city council approved documents, those are documents that have been converted into ADA compliance. Note that the city had over, if I recall the number correctly, 350,000 pages worth of documents that has to be converted. So we're still working on that project. As it relates to community engagement and empowerment, as indicated before, we assisted in the efforts of the city with the feeding of our community, as well as the vaccination, as well as testing of our residents and surrounding communities. But we also assisted in the residential participation in the 2020 census and assisted with the organization's, response to the global pandemic. As it relates to our FY 2022 goals, under operational excellence, you see that we will continue to conduct organizational-wide training concerning public records laws. This office understands election and public records laws are fluid, and so therefore continued training is very, very important, and it's done in an effort to keep our customers informed. And we will also begin digitizing older permanent records within the Office of the City Clerk. As you all may or may not know, the Office of the City Clerk houses resolutions, ordinances, and minutes from basically when the city was established. And we are responsible for maintaining the integrity of those documents. Those documents have begun to fade, so it is imperative that we move to getting them digitized so that we can negate the compromise of the integrity of the documents. Under government stewardship and accountability, we will continue to assist the Informational Technology Department with converting approved documents into ADA compliant documents prior to reposting on the city's website. Complete implementation of the filing election-related documents electronically. We have found a company that works with municipalities in allowing candidates to file their paperwork electronically. So far, there is only one company that does this. The company that worked with the county and the state, they do not deal with municipalities at all, but municipalities throughout Florida managed to find a company that would work with us as municipalities in allowing our candidates to file electronically as they do on the county and state level. We will also create and complete a naming convention enabling easier research of city documents. We understand the frustration that our customers have, because we ourselves have that same frustration when we try to look for city council approved documents utilizing one word and nothing comes up, or from my personal experience, there have been documents that come up, but then when you put in the word for it to get to that direct page, it says that no such word is found in the document. So we are currently working with the IT department to come up with a naming convention, as well as seeing if we need to look at possibly utilizing something like Laserfish that will allow we, the customers, to search through city council approved documents as well as other city documents utilizing one word to bring up everything that has that one word in it. As it relates to community engagement and empowerment, conduct an election information forum, which we will be having on September 7th here in this facility with the Palm Beach County Supervisor of Election, Wendy Satora, link beginning at 5:30. And this is going to be done, one, to properly educate our residents on the new election laws, especially when it comes down to the vote by mail ballots. As you all may or may not be aware, there is a caveat in there that if this law is broken, that a person can go to jail, and we surely do not want that to happen. And we are also going to seek additional avenues in an effort to increase voter participation in the 2022 municipal election. Our voter participation this year was 18% of our registered voters. That is lower than our 2017, 3 years, 2017 turnout that we had. Our vote by mail was higher, but our overall participation was 3% lower. So our election that's coming up next year, of course, is our larger election, which calls for us to have a larger turnout. We are one of the few municipalities that have a double-digit turnout for our municipal elections, but we want to see if it can, we can encourage our residents to understand that their vote counts, because we have had in this city where there was an election that was determined by one vote, and as you all are aware, we recently had where there was a tie vote that occurred here in the city, and that was the first time in the history of the city of Riviera Beach in which that occurred. So every vote counts, and we need for our residents to understand your vote really do count. So we're utilizing every platform that we can think of to encourage our voters to get out and vote. And with that being said, that concludes the budget for the Office of the City Clerk, and I'm here to answer any questions.
Any questions?
Madam Chair.
Yes, go ahead, sir.
So, Ms. Anthony, I was looking forward to seeing something about the number of public records requests and how does that change, or I'm sure it changed, I guess, since the pandemic. And there was a constituent that called our office about a police report, and to my surprise, I guess because of the pandemic, there was some time where police reports were offered for free. So I know statistically it may be kind of hard to keep a number, but has there been a significant increase in public records requests? Obviously, I would imagine done electronically, since we kind of went into the pandemic and had to shut down for a while. So can you speak to that?
I can provide some, I don't want to say true hard numbers, but what I can provide is a report that is generated by our Q Alert, which is our electronic filing program. What we as the city clerk's office try to do, as well as the police department, is try to drive everything through the Q Alert system. That way we can keep up with the number of public records requests that we receive, as well as it allows for accountability to see how long public records requests are taken to fulfill, as the customers are also kept abreast of where their public records request is in the process. As it relates to something being provided free, I'm not aware of what the police department has done during the pandemic, but I'll be sure to ask and provide a report on that.
Okay.
I wanted to ask that same question as well, because I know there's been some issue in regards to what has been released in terms of public record and to whom. So is there a system that we're going to have in place that we will know exactly how many public records requests were made and to whom they were made to?
Again, our Q Alert software
I think
allows
Mr. Evans
that.
can answer that.
Okay.
Madam Chair, we do have the system, but Florida state statutes actually does not require persons to provide any information, descriptive, non-descriptive, or what have you, with regards to public information. So we can ask for that information, or we can ask them to put the information in the system, but they're not required by statute. So we can track it. We can probably tell you the number of public records requests, but to whom and what they requested, that would be a little bit more challenging.
No, I mean, if someone, someone can ask for a public record and they could be anonymous, but they have to ask for something specific, so we would know that it was an anonymous person who asked for X. That's what I'm asking.
Yes, Madam Chair, we do have, and we do have information as to where or whom requested the information and a copy of what they requested as well. And in some cases, if those are sensitive bits of information, it's reviewed by legal prior to its being released. So we can definitely have, share with the board a list of how many and what the nature of the request was based on staff fulfilling that request.
That would be very interesting to see and to be shared with the board. Thank you. Any other questions in regards to the city clerk's office? Thank you for your presentation.
Thank you.
Mr. Evans?
All right, Madam Chair, at this point, the city attorney will be making a presentation on the city attorney's department.
City attorney, could you give me 5 minutes? Could we make a recess for 5 minutes so I can? Thank you so much. 5 minutes, we will have a recess. we'll come back to order for our budget meeting. Go ahead, Ms. Nguyen.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the council, City Manager Evans. I'd like to present the fiscal year 2021 highlights and accomplishments from the Office of the City Attorney. Under prosperous, resilient, and sustainable economy, we negotiated and settled the city's dispute with the town of Mangonia Park over the provision of wastewater services and fees. We litigated and settled 4 interpleader cases as it relates to the Brooks subdivision, bringing in over $51,000 of surplus funds to the city, plus an additional $25,000 dedicated to the Housing Trust Fund to assist qualified home buyers to purchase additional affordable housing in the city. We drafted an emergency management ordinance that, when adopted, will become part of the city's comprehensive emergency management plan. And we worked with code compliance to develop a resolution to establish the property improvement account and program. Under great neighborhoods, we drafted 3 ordinances: the code compliance ordinance, the property maintenance ordinance, and the chronic nuisance abatement ordinance, along with the assistance, of course, of development services for maintaining and the purpose of maintaining and beautifying neighborhoods. We negotiated the terms of an interlocal agreement with Palm Beach County for the redevelopment of the Brooks subdivision, which will be 22 affordable housing parcels located in the city. Under operational excellence, we recruited and hired a new legal staff assistant. Most of you may have seen emails from Ms. Shirley Harris. They had a 1-year vacancy in that position, so we're happy to fill that as a compliment to the office. Also wanted you to know that all agreements that are entered into at the city, whether they come to the city council or not, some agreements are entered into by the city manager under his purchasing authority. All of those agreements are reviewed by the city attorney's office, not just what you see that comes on your agenda. We assisted with the labor negotiations with all 4 unions and assisted the police department with completing their policies and procedures that were necessary as part of their accreditation process. Under government stewardship and accountability, we assisted with the legal acquisition of 2 real property parcels, 1620 West Blue Heron, which will be Fire Station 88, and 2129 North Congress, which of course is our current library youth empowerment program and the emerging community center. We secured nearly $250,000 in surplus funds through circuit court litigation, dealing with code compliance, utility, and special assessment liens. We also assisted with the acquisition of almost 2 acres for the construction of the new public works facility on Avenue L. Community engagement and empowerment, we mentor students in the municipal legal profession via Zoom. Of course, that was due to COVID-19 restrictions. And we adopted and continue to provide support to Mary McLeod Bethune Elementary School. And we participated in providing community updates along with the manager's office and other city departments as it relates to the COVID-19 pandemic. Our 2022 goals for the upcoming year, is to continue to provide proactive legal advice to the city council, city manager, city departments, and other city boards in order to protect the interests of the city. Great neighborhoods, again, we implemented the 3 ordinances that I discussed, and those are necessary to create and enhance clean, green, and beautiful neighborhoods, parks, and districts. We continue to appear in foreclosure litigation cases and tax deed sales to protect and enforce the city's liens on real property by securing surplus funds. And we continue to work with code compliance to establish and implement the property improvement account and program. Operational excellence, we will continue to assist city departments with updating their policies and procedures, reduce the liability to the city by creating educational initiatives and trainings for managerial and support staff. We work closely with management to create the emergency management ordinance. We currently have a draft that we're working with fire rescue on, and hopefully that will be adopted in the very near future. We are assisting the procurement department with creating or standardizing their bid forms and contracts That was one of the recommendations of the external auditor, and so we have been doing that when we receive bid documents from procurement. We review them prior to them being let out on the streets. We are cross-training our attorneys so that they can perform multiple roles in the office and so that there's hopefully never an interruption in legal services to the city. Government stewardship and accountability. We would like to continue to keep the city council and the manager apprised of the status of all pending litigation, and we do that through our monthly litigation reports that you receive. We strictly review and negotiate litigation costs and fees. And then along with city administration, again, this was a goal of last year. We have not been able to accomplish it. We had a few roadblocks in the way of trademarking our city logo. Community engagement and empowerment. We support a summer intern in our office with opportunities for shadowing the attorneys in the city attorney's office. We mentor local students for careers in the legal profession and support the ongoing needs of Mary McLeod Bethune Elementary School. Finally, I'd like to thank the City Council and the manager for fostering a great working relationship between the legal department, other city departments, and the manager's office. And I'm available to answer any questions you have.
Madam Chair.
Yes, go ahead.
Just a very big thank you to the legal department for the hard work and hours, I'm sure, that were put in to craft the floating structures and liveaboards ordinance, as well as the work that was done on what do they call it?
Special preservation.
Thank you. Derelict.
Oh, derelict
Thanks.
vessels.
Just really great work, and I really appreciate it. And I'm sure everyone in the city, not only people who live on Singer Island and look at those waters every day, but everyone in the city is grateful, I'm sure, for the work you've done, and I appreciate it.
Thank you, and I'll pass that on to Ms. Busby, who had the yeoman's effort in that.
Madam Chair?
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you so much. Attorney Nguyen, I love the idea of the cross-training. I think that's vital because then that's going to, in the long term, save our city a lot of dollars. So that's a great idea, a great program plan. And just thank you for the work that you guys have been doing for the city. It's been amazing and good support to have a great legal team. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Madam Chair.
Yes, go ahead, sir.
Ms. Nguyen, so as far as caseloads, I don't specifically recall, I guess, our first year, but it just seems to me that there's a lot more litigation now than in previous years. Like, for instance, I know we do, I guess it was a conversation I had with Ms. Busby that she's doing, these interpleaders. That wasn't being done before, correct?
No, she's always done that.
Right, but I guess even prior to Ms. Busby, I think was 2015, was the city doing interpleaders?
I don't believe so, no. I believe it started with Ms. Busby coming into the office.
Okay, so I guess as far as the office workload, I mean, compared to previous year, well, I guess you were probably here when we started, right? So I guess, is there any kind of benchmark as to what the caseload has been, the amount of work that's been, obviously the new, I guess, pronouncement, if you will, from the manager comments in the audit report, I guess recommending, more oversight in the procurement process. So has the workload increased because obviously you have an additional attorney? So I know we're not using outside counsel for collective bargaining, but in general, has there been an increase?
Yes, I believe there's been an increase, especially like you said, with now reviewing all of the procurement bid docs, or before we were just reviewing the contracts. There seemed at some point to be a slowdown in the number of litigation cases actually coming into the office, and I think that was, though, based on COVID-19. People just weren't, everybody was shut down, nobody was actually filing lawsuits. All of the monthly reports or the memos that you get from my office regarding settled or closed out litigation were primarily older cases that were here before I came here. But I do believe also that as HR picks up with their new director and as we start getting more filling vacant positions in departments, those departments are going to have more employees to do more work, and then we'll still have to do that work, but operating with the same staff. So the work will definitely pick up, but we expect that.
Well, I guess a better way to put it, but compared to what the amount of work that we used to outsource, because I believe that at one point there was just 2 attorneys.
Correct.
And I guess if you want to say that, Ms. Busby was probably here by herself during the transition time, prior to you starting. But has there been a significant reduction in the amount of work that we're sending out to the different law offices that we've used?
The reduction has been not in personal injury, but the reduction has been in the labor side of it. Ms. Mutomba has picked up a lot of that. She's learned a lot, although we still have outside legal counsel as it relates to the unions. She's learned a lot, especially from Jack McLean. But we have taken investigations inside where we would have contracted those out to law firms, unless they're of a sensitive nature and we believe that politically or just the sensitivity of it, we should contract it out. But for the most part, she's been doing those in-house as well.
Thank you.
Madam Chair?
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you. And just to follow up to that, as Councilman McCoy stated, that there has been a significant increase just in the settlements. A lot of those old cases that you guys are currently settling, I would assume that's great news because you're able to get that off of our books and get that behind us and just those pending cases. Based upon the current staff that you have, do you foresee an increase or do you need additional support in the legal department that would assist with the influx of projects we're going to be working on, the procurement process that we're going to be trying to implement, and the reviewing of the disparity study, and certain things that are coming down the pipeline? The current staff versus additional support that you may need.
I do envision the need for additional staff at some point in time. I'm not this fiscal year necessarily. I was asked when we were looking at our new City Hall prospective space, in a dream world, what would I like to see the staff be and what could we handle? And I said probably 2 attorneys and 2 paralegals. So that would be an additional 3 staff positions in a dream world.
And that was, to that point, that's when that actually raised my concerns, because I was very appreciative and excited that we're able to close out a lot of these pending and these settlements, because when I see them come before our agenda, they're years old. But we're finally able to actually get those settled, get those closed, made those individuals, residents, staffers, employees, everybody whole, and make sure that's not being held over our head, because just pending litigation is just going to increase costs. And it's going to increase the liability to our taxpayers. So those are things that I wanted to see, and I just wanted to make sure that you had that support necessary. So maybe looking at, maybe not implementing this into the current budget cycle, but looking at what it's going to look like over the next, 2, 3, 5 years in regards to having sufficient legal. So some of the outsourcing that we've done can be handled in-house as well, if possible, if legally feasible.
Right, yeah. That's definitely something we need to look at. And one of the other goals that we have in pushing those cases to get closed and even pushing outside counsel is, even if we paid a little more on the settlement side, we're cutting out all of those costs of constantly doing all of that discovery when we know that we have a great likelihood of success in settling those cases. And so that's always a goal of the office as well.
And that's why I see just, settling them now has just been great work by your department, so thank you.
Thank you so much.
Awesome.
Thank you. Any more questions for legal? Thank you for your presentation. Mr. Evans?
Madam Chair, members of the board, I'll have the Director of Finance, Mr. Randy Sherman, make his presentation.
Good evening, Randy Sherman, Finance Director. Okay, so fiscal 21, our highlights and accomplishments. It's been interesting watching the other departments, because there's only a few departments that cross and touch almost everything that comes through the city. So a lot of these things you probably have already seen before. But one of the, trying to find our highlights for the year, assisted procurement with the RFP for solid waste collection. That process took almost 12 months to write that RFP and contract. We have participated in impact fee studies, water and sewer rate studies, the fire assessment fee study, a salary study, and the franchise fee study and analysis. Close out the hurricanes and reimbursement projects with FEMA. Sometimes people don't realize after these storms, we are still working on Michael. We have Michael, Irma, Dorian, and 2 COVID cases out there right now with FEMA. So those things do go on for a while. We arranged for the financing for the fire stations. I am happy to announce that Our bids came in last Thursday. The interest rate for the fire station bonds is 1.994%. When we were here in July talking about the fire station, we were around 2.2%. So we were very happy with that 1.94%. And then trying to work on the refinancing for the utility debt as well. That's the 2014 and 2016 debt. And for the great neighborhoods, we're working with Ms. McBride on her neighborhood revitalization program, and we have $1 million in next year's budget to kick off that program. Try to expand the funding for the solid waste program. Again, that gets back to the franchise fees. Remember the presentation made a month and a half, 2 months ago over at the Ambassador Center on the solid waste fee, franchise fee. That is ready to come back when the manager wants us to bring that back. And then for the marina expansion, we have just about done phase 3 expansion. We have one more dock to go, but that project is almost ready to move on to phase 4. For operational excellence, we implemented the employee expense module in Tyler, the P-card module in Tyler, and the utility billing module in Tyler. We converted banks. If you recall, contract was awarded to SunTrust just about a year ago, so we converted from TD Bank to SunTrust. And we implemented 4 kiosk systems so that we could have touchless payments, not only for the utility billing, but also for development services and for Parks and Rec. Under government stewardship and accountability, we did receive the Distinguished Budget Award again for the 5th consecutive year. We closed out 2 financial year-end audits, one for fiscal 2019, one for 2020. Again, that includes not only the city, it includes the utility district, and it also includes the CRA. All of the finance employees have been FEMA trained, so we took the opportunity to get all of our employees up to date on our FEMA training. And we established the quarterly financial reports that we presented back in July for the first time as a result of the audit finding. For community engagement and empowerment, we did implement open finance. The best comments we have received so far on that have actually come from the county, who was in looking at our financial documents and really appreciated having access to the open finance. That's the online portal where you can go in and drill down through the city's finances. And then we obviously participate in all the Reimagine Riviera Beach workshops with the residents. For next year, operational excellence, we always continue to find ways to enhance transparency of our operations. We will continue to promote electronic payments of the utility bills and any other bills that are coming into the city. Continue to implement the ERP, which is the Tyler system. I think next up, we still have the business tax receipts module that we're working with development services on to get that up and running, and then there are more human resource modules coming down the line. Again, going back to the management letter that we get from the auditor every year, we continue to find ways to try to strengthen our business practices. We try to implement things such as the time scheduling for police and fire. And then, as I mentioned earlier, we will be working on the financing for the water treatment facility and expansion for the marina. And the government stewardship and accountability, next year we're looking to provide more timely financial services to the departments, the rating agencies, and other government, and other governments while safeguarding our city assets. Continue to work to strengthen our controls and our practices, develop efficiencies of our operations, and submit our cash handling policy, which again was one of the audit findings. We will be submitting that for certification through the Association of Public Treasurers. And with that, I can take any questions that you may have.
Madam Chair,
Yes, go ahead.
with regard to Tyler, at what point are we, in terms of the Development Services Department, where we can just say, okay, I see your permit, I know where it is?
We had a call on Friday on that. They are about ready to go live with, I'll call it Phase 1. Probably again into September, early October. But I will tell you, Tyler is a very powerful tool, as we found in some of the other modules. And just kicking off Phase 1 is probably just scratching the surface, 10%, and then they'll get into Phase 2 and keep going down the line. But the discussions I've had with them is you've got to make that first step. You got to get it up and running. You work out all the kinks, and then you just keep building on it from there. So I would say again, the first rollout that they're looking at is end of September, early October.
Okay, thanks.
I have a question. I think maybe twofold. One of the questions was when the city went from the original water bill payment system to Tyler,
Yes.
that process was not shared with the public in terms of how to do that. Now, I consider my dad to be very good in terms of navigating computers and, paying bills online. And he had paid his water bill online for years. And suddenly he starts getting a bill in the mail. But there was nothing online, there was nothing anywhere to help him navigate to Tyler. He said that the account numbers were different, the logins were different. There was nothing to help him to get from one, because he assumed that when you navigated to Tyler, that everything would go with it, but it didn't.
It did.
So a lot of the seniors had problems in trying to get that whole system set up. And it took him a while, but there was nothing he could go to be able to help him to figure out how to get from one to the other. And I think it's the same thing that's happening with BMO and Tyler. There's nothing to go anywhere to say, this is how you go from this particular program to this program, because most times with Tyler, the stuff that you have in the original program doesn't go with you over there. It becomes a new system, so to speak, because it is.
Yeah.
So I think that when we do these different types of changing systems, that there is some type of video or something that tells people this is how you navigate from this program to this program.
Yeah.
Because it was really, really, and not just my dad, but a lot of seniors called me and said, I just can't figure this out. And they didn't want to go back to coming up to the city paying their water bill. They wanted to be the auto pay where it goes
Right.
in. So it was just so hard to get to that point again. So I just really wanted to caution you guys in terms of going from one system to the next, to be able to have a video how-to for people to be able to, not just seniors, all of us, to be able to get to the point where we know how to navigate from one system to the next.
Yeah, it got to be confusing because people were used to having an account number.
Yes.
And it went from an account number to a bill number to a property ID, and,
Yes.
and trying to get that all to work. And you're right,
Yeah.
there was certainly some confusion. That could have been handled better, but,
Yeah.
it was interesting because for the first week, we were tracking the calls on every Tuesday. That was our guy. We went from 400 calls a day, down to 300, down, and it took about 6 weeks, and it was back to normal.
Yeah.
There were some things that, still aren't working right, and I'll tell you, no matter how many trials we ran and test runs and everything, you can't imagine all of them
No, you
that are
can't.
going to come up.
Of course you can't anticipate.
But,
but
it's...
definitely do a how-to video.
Yep.
That would help.
No, I
Trust me.
appreciate that. And every resident that emailed me, I emailed them back and I said, thank you, good or bad, whatever you're saying, we appreciate it, because we don't necessarily know what is happening. And,
Right.
my poor staff who lives in the city, you know, they were all of our guinea pigs. Go out and pay your water bill, go out and do this, and go out, you know, I mean, it was a matter of testing. But, yeah, I'm hoping that we're, like, over that big hurdle and, you know, things are getting better. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for
This is, I haven't looked at this, I have to admit. This is fantastic. I'm looking at my budget, I'm looking at his budget, I'm digging down here. I love it. I want to know how come he spends so much money.
Isn't that good? It's nice.
Now I know, I can ask all these
Isn't
questions.
that nice?
Yeah, it's very nice.
That's very
It's
nice.
very good. It's easy to manipulate, it's easy
Yeah.
to get, yeah, I like it. All right, all right.
Very good. Thank you, sir, for your
Okay.
presentation.
All right. Thank you.
Really appreciate
Madam
it.
Chair, I'm sorry. Just
Next.
Madam Chair?
Oh, I'm sorry, you had one.
No
Go
worries,
ahead.
just one thing. I just wanted to give Mr. Sherman thank you for our AA rating. All I ask is that you just get us to AAA within the next year or two. So do your best work you can to
we're
just get that credit score. I know
We're trying.
you guys have done phenomenal, understanding the importance of that and how much money that's really saving our residents. That is an amazing job to get that rating up, and if we keep pushing it even higher, that just shows the excellence you guys are doing. That starts with your department, so thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Next item.
Madam Chair and members of the board, to present on my favorite department, city administration. So like Mr. Sherman said, city administration's goals and responsibilities and activities does touch multiple departments, but there are some significant highlights in here that we did want to make sure that are communicated to the council as well as the board. First, moving forward on the disparity study, we know that that is a big policy initiative from the city council, and we will continue to move forward with that, but that was commenced as part of the FY 2021 goals and objectives. Completed Fire Station 88 intent to negotiate. We've moved through the process as it relates to Fire Station 88 and looking to hopefully have a groundbreaking on that site November of this year. So we're excited about that and hopefully being able to open that facility before our centennial birthday, which is September 29th of 2022. We acquired 1920 West Blue Heron when we had the discussion about the location for Fire Station 88. And then we also acquired 1.9 acres on Avenue L and Broadway, or on Blue Heron, which is going to be the home for the new utility district. Right now, the board just recently approved us moving forward with a phase 2 analysis on that particular site, and that will be the home for the utility district as well as the public works campus. We've been able to secure staff as it relates to funding and training for mental health first aid, and so that's something that's been a big initiative from the Office of Councilman Lawson. And I know this board has been acutely aware of some of the challenges associated with mental health, especially for our first responders. We've created an economic recovery plan. This was associated with the pandemic. That was a grant program that we moved forward with, roughly about $200,000 of monies that were provided in a grant assistance program. The city of Riviera Beach was successful in advocating for and preparing a letter to the county that was set for us to receive roughly about $500,000 from the county, and we did from the CARES allocation that was provided under the Trump administration. We did assist in expediting the incubator program with the CRA. We were able to move forward with getting the Smoothie Me Please business up and operational, and we have a lot of other business incubators that are in the pipeline and hopefully will be coming to the board here in the next couple of months. We acquired 2129 North Congress Avenue, which is the new Riviera Beach Public Library and the Emerging Community Center, and it is certainly a staple in our community now, and we're excited about that particular facility coming on board. We were successful in initiating the $4 million, which is now $5 million, Palm Beach Isles Bridge project that had been delayed since 2017, and we were successful in moving forward with that project. And I was out there today, and it looks like they're almost close to being able to go to the end of the project, which are the last bridge in the back half of the community. So we're excited about that, and the developer or the contractor has done a really good job in mitigating any issues to the residents. I haven't had any calls or complaints with respect to that. We moved forward with creating a program that allowed for us to put a process in place for local participation or local support with regards to a tax credit process. And we were successful in creating a process that was respected by the development community, as well as when the project went to Florida Housing, Berkeley Landing, they were successful in their application, and you're going to see about $31 million worth of investment on the Broadway corridor, which is going to be a great benefit to the community. You're seeing a situation where the existing property is assessed at about $975,000, and so then you add the $31 million worth of actual construction of the facility, so you will see the city receive dividends from that investment as a result of the process and ad valorem revenue. So we're excited about that project coming online, and they just got a favorable review from the Planning and Zoning Board. We facilitated the investment into workforce housing, the 11th Street project associated with the CRA, and making sure that that project still continues to move forward, and as well as some other projects that have been caught up in the hopper for some time and moving those projects forward. We created a COVID-19 phase 2 operation and restoration plan that talked about how we would safely return employees back to work, what the expectation that they should have being an employee of the agency, and how do we try to keep them safe throughout the entire pandemic. I think when we created this plan, we didn't think that there was going to be multiple iterations of this process, and we're looking to develop new policies and new operational plans that will be rolled out at the end of this week that speak to how we are to provide services related to COVID. And one thing I do want to share is that, you know, all these things that all these departments did, this was in the midst of a global pandemic. And so hopefully we'll be able to put some of this behind us so we can really hit our strides and be able to accomplish what I think we can accomplish as an agency. And for some folks that didn't know this, is we were back to work in a work capacity where we were actually occupying facilities for about a year before the city of West Palm Beach came back to work, which is July 6th is when they came back to work, and we had already been back to work for close to a year before. And a lot of other operations are just now bringing employees back to work and then looking to modify. So your staff has done an exceptional job in regards to being here and being active throughout the duration of the pandemic. We work to facilitate the front porch fireworks display and actually saving us money as a result of that. And I think that may be something that we really need to consider in subsequent years, because I've always gotten rave reviews from all persons throughout the community related to that. But I know that we're going to look to how do we safely return back to events and activities, but it's something to consider. It is a program that's well liked by the community. Facilitated our first joint meeting with the town of Lake Park and the city with regards to development and their project that's coming online, Nautilus 220. I do have an opportunity to have a discussion with the developer probably in the next week or two because they're looking at some other opportunities to create synergy in the Broadway corridor. So there's some other activities that may be happening, and I'll share those with the board. We successfully appointed a permanent fire chief. We acquired new bunker gear for our department, and we facilitated numerous upgrades in the utility district. As this board knows, that you have been the board that has spent well over $13 million in the water treatment plant to be able to keep the plant up and operational, with the plans to move forward with a new $150 million facility, which we're excited to bring that solicitation to a closure and bring that to the board as quickly as possible. We actually reduced our payment as it relates to our lease payment related to the Port Center. We relocated some of our operations into space at the Public Works campus, and then we also terminated our lease agreement at the 2001 Broadway and moved the CRA facilities to City Hall, which is anticipated to save us about $120,000 a year, $10,000 per month. That was the actual lease payment that we were paying for that facility in that space. The modifications that we've made to health insurance has saved roughly about $532,000. And we've also seen this year, we've had the first rate pass. That means no increase on our health insurance in probably about 5 years as a result of some of the challenges that we had in the modifications that we made to the health insurance program. We reduced the FY 2001 budget by roughly about $1.8 million. We received about $100,000 in grant funding for Monroe Heights Park and Goodmar Park, $1.9 million in funding from Department of Economic Opportunity for aerial crossings, and then we were successful in collecting $332,000 from the town of Mangonia Park that dates back to 2018. We also, and we're bringing forward an item that will be on your September 1st agenda, with regards to the reallocation of some additional monies that we got for CDBG, which goes to fund enhanced code compliance, the urban FAR, and citywide Wi-Fi. So we're excited about that, and that's actually an item that's on your September 1st agenda to close out that project and then allow for us to move forward with the expenditure of monies for that. Next is facilitate the city's first community value survey. We've done this now 2 years consecutively, and I think the board has provided us direction that we wanted to maybe look at it more of a scientific survey and work with the board as it relates to what questions that we were able to ask the community. We moved forward with a virtual Citizens Academy, which was well liked by many folks in the community, so we're excited that that program was able to come to fruition. We had multiple community conversations, approximately 4, with regards to the solid waste services and the letting of that particular solicitation, and so now the board knows that we're moving forward with revamping that solicitation. I had a discussion with Ms. McBride, and we're going to have a virtual conversation with all the solid waste providers pretty much statewide to see what can we do or what are some of the questions that they may have prior to that solicitation being released. So we're working on that to get that back before the board for consideration. We created a community cleanup initiative resulting in the removal of 22.5 tons or 45,000 pounds or 3 male bull elephants, whichever is more relatable to you. But we're excited about that program, and we're actually looking to bring a subsequent phases of that because we saw the value associated with that. Adopted the 2021 legislative priorities for the state, which we were successful in receiving $1 million from the state for an emergency operations center. And so we already are moving forward with the plans for Fire Station 87 and what that emergency operation center would look like. We launched the new City of Riviera Beach website, which we're very proud of, and it's very intuitive, but it's still a growing, living, breathing organism that we're going to have to tweak and make modifications to have it a little bit more robust and a little bit more user-friendly. So that's something that we know that we initially launched it, and then there's subsequent phases. And then we acquired a new emergency alert system, Code Red, which people certainly enjoy having that, and it's been a very good tool for us as we move forward. So just continuing to move along, obviously released information to help public-private partnership opportunities and construction of a new City Hall campus. That goes to the reimagined sessions. We had multiple sessions. We've talked about it at the staff level multiple times and had conversations about what needs to occur to facilitate moving that particular property and project forward so we can be able to have some decisions that the board can make. And our intent is at your September 15th meeting to be able to move forward with the board actually selecting a site for us to move forward with that project. Carried out the board's direction with regards to Marina Phase 2 project, and we're moving forward with the review of the financial analysis of the proposers, and then bringing that to the board for direction and moving that project forward. Also, we do have monies in the budget for the build out of the marina space here to be able to get that particular area to a white box, which is a shell that can be occupied by a restaurateur or another type of operation. So that will be something that will be included in your 2022 budget. We've worked on multiple conversations on Fire Station 88, and obviously the conversation about Fire Station 86 is a, pun intended, a hot topic that we look to bring back to the board for some conversation, but staff has been working diligently to try to marry 2 stations together as closely as possible, because we think that there's at least $300,000 to $400,000 in savings as a result of collaborating these or bringing these stations together And so we're still looking. There's some other options that we have on the table, but bringing that back to the board for consideration at your September 15th meeting. We've looked to establish strategies to ensure investments that occur to increase economic value and taxable value located within the CRA properties. We are looking at opportunities, joint ventures. For instance, example would be the property 2600 Broadway, which we're working on with a consultant that's helping us put together a economic analysis of the site and what the market looks to be able to see occur on that site, and then bringing that back to the board for consideration, and then ultimately seeing if we can obtain a partner through the private sector. So we're looking at our additional assets and things that we can do to facilitate additional growth within the CRA. The other aspect is improving the permitting process, making sure that it is a streamlined, that it is a very quick and easy and seamless process, and get rid of some of the burdensome regulations. One of the things that is going to be a focus of this year, that if it's archaic, if it's bureaucratic, if it doesn't make sense, we're going to be looking to bring those policy recommendations to the board and ultimately removing those things that create for an adverse impact. We want folks to have a seamless and pleasant process, and so we're looking at all our policies and procedures to bring forward. Development of procurement guidelines to support local small business participation. It's been this board's policy directive that we want to make sure that the monies that are in our community are invested wisely and invested with our local businesses. So we're looking to create a program that actually facilitates shop and buy local. So from all commodities, goods, and services, we look to have some brown bag lunching series to tell folks what are the things that we look for and what are the things that we invest in, and seeing what partnership and business development opportunities that we can facilitate as a result of our spending power here in our community. And then we wanted to develop a business support initiative, basically a hotline. You know, I'm starting a business. What are the things that I need to know? What are the things that I don't know? What are the things that are able to be provided to me by virtue of the CRA or city? And how can I make that business initiative a pleasant experience? So we want to look at how we support our local businesses and how to grow our businesses. The other operational excellence is continuing to improve transparency through the agency, to look to develop additional transparency modules and access to government. We're looking to create ways that gives the citizens an opportunity to look in the government, look in governance, look in finance, accounting. How can we really pull back the veil of government and have people interested in what we're doing, and also help us to be able to tackle some of the challenges that we have moved forward. So we're looking at, you know, whether it's digital agenda reviews, we're looking at coffees with the chair, we're looking at conversations with the manager. We're looking to really engage the community a lot more proactively in a safe manner this next upcoming year, because we see a lot of value associated with that. One of the important aspects is expediting the recruitment process and standardizing how positions are posted in each department. One of the most challenging aspects associated with getting someone on board is the time from when they've interviewed to the time when they start. If we do lose them, that's the time in which we lose them. And so we want to get a system that we have through Tyler and allow for us to shorten that period and shorten that window and bring folks on board in a more expedited manner, but have uniformity and consistency on how the recruitment process is handled. And with our HR generalist that's in that position, looking to make some advancements as it relates to practices, protocols, procedures. You saw earlier all the policies that we adopted in 2021. Those are policies that conceivably should have been done in 2010. There's a lot of policies that weren't on the books or still aren't on the books that we're working to resolve and move forward in a appropriate fashion. Provide media training for all executive staff. We know that the media is a part of what we do and how we interact with them and how we engage them and how we help tell our own stories, good, bad, or indifferent. We want to make sure that the executive management team, as well as the elected officials, are savvy with regards to the interactions with the media and how to handle with the media. And so I believe starting in the month of October, if not even late September, Ms. Noel has been working with a facilitator that is a seasoned public information officer and worked with the press, and we're going to have a mock scenario and situations that we're going to provide training for all executive staff as well as the elected officials that wish to participate. Developed the city's first comprehensive personnel manual that actually looks to address some of the things that should have been in place for a long time, and so we're working on that. The final icing on that cake is for the new executive director of the Human Resources Department to come on board to take a look at the document and then provide any comments or tweaks, and then we look to bring that item for consideration. And then modifications to the personnel code to ensure there's some consistencies and uniformities with state law and best practices. And so we've been working on that, and that's something that we'll look to come before the board as part of the 2022 goals. Continue to recruit and hire competent, experienced and credentialed management personnel and develop succession planning in the organization. That's one of the things that government entities don't do a really good job on, is after we get you here, we don't do anything to continue to allow for you to grow in the agency. And so what I'm going to be tasked with is not just looking at who do we have to fill those positions, but who would you have to fill other upper management positions, and creating a leadership academy that allows for those that are in the agency now prepared to be able to take leadership roles in the agency in the future. So a very concerted effort with respect to building the next pipeline or the next leaders in the agency, because I really believe that the leaders that are here in the agency today can certainly lead this agency in the future. So looking to build that. Spearheading citywide marketing and branding initiative to develop trademark and new logo, new image. One of the things that's incorporated in the fiscal year 2022 budget is a branding campaign. That process takes roughly about a year to do it right, which results in community charrettes and discussions and conversations. So we are going to be moving forward in that particular direction, and that allows for us to really get the thoughts and comments from persons as to what is the image, what is the brand, and how do we protect the image, the brand, and how do we look to roll that forward. Because I can tell you, sometimes I've had a chart and I've had 35 business cards with 35 different logos, fonts, colors. So standardizing all that and making sure the community is a part of that. So that's actually incorporated in the budget, because we thought that if we can coincide that with the centennial celebration, it makes all the sense for us to refresh our logo. So that's part of the fiscal year 2022 goals. Facilitate more formal training for employees, sexual harassment, discrimination, retaliation. All those different things are so important to making sure that the workforce is educated and informed, and then making sure that we provide a requirement for supervisory training, that we have quarterly supervisory training, that we hit on some of those things that persons can know how to handle situations. Also from an ethical perspective, understanding Florida statute, understanding Americans with Disabilities Act, and then ultimately looking how to facilitate performance evaluations. In our personnel code, one of the things that it talks about is merit, and then how do we ensure that persons are being compensated fairly and equitably as a result of their merit or what they bring to the table. And so we want to standardize and create a rubric and a matrix that allows for us to have a situation where there's no ambiguity or confusion, that you put the numbers into the system, it kicks out a number, and then you know where Jonathan falls in that percentile, and as a result of that, moves on as it relates to the compensation aspect. So we're looking to revamp that and make sure that every employee has an annual evaluation on a regular basis. There's a lot of department heads that are in the agency today that I'm the first manager that's given them their evaluation. So it's important that we do that all throughout the agency. One of the other things that's important is facilitate amendments to the comprehensive plan, zoning map, redevelopment amendments. We have about $150,000 that's programmed in the fiscal year 2022 budget that speaks to the comprehensive plan. It's going to be a heavy lift, so it's going to be $150,000 this year, $150,000 next year, and $150,000 year after, because we're looking at the entire comprehensive plan. We're looking at creating a UDC, Unified Development Code, so there's no ambiguity and confusion. Everything aligns, and so this is going to be small bites at the apple because it's such a heavy lift, because as an agency, we've done it on the piecemeal approach. And so we're going to make sure that when we do go out for a solicitation, that this entity will come in and do all 3 phases to move us through that as quickly as possible. And so when having conversations with the department, that was the most suitable way for them to move forward with that, since it's such a major initiative. The other side is excellent customer service, both internal and external. We're going to deploy secret shoppers. We're going to have folks that are going to call HR, that are going to call administration, that are going to email and tell us, how we're doing as a customer service entity. And so that's going to be a big push for us, is to improve our customer service. I previously told this board that we were looking at the call center approach, looking to adopt one number, everybody calls, and then we can facilitate that. That's part of our customer service program. And then ultimately looking to have a situation where we can get feedback from persons after they do have experience with staff or call center, or we resolve those issues, and then tracking some of the issues, so where a person can really see real time when they do call in that something is resolved or has been routed to the appropriate person. So there's really going to be a big focus on the customer service side. Obviously, continue to review the city's charter to make amendments and revisions that improve operational aspects as well as governance. We're looking to bring to the board a revised, modified, standardized special event process that streamlines a lot of the things that we've talked about, but also how do we look to maximize the revenue generation component associated with how we handle the rental of spaces, because we just sent Mr. Sherman, this is my CRA hat, we just sent Mr. Sherman a bill for about $250,000 as it relates to the use of the event center associated with city council meetings and meetings that we have in the space, because there is lost revenue that's associated with some of the activities since we've been utilizing the space. So how do we make sure that we're maximizing the space, and that if we are providing any concessions or partnering, that the city or CRA is deriving a benefit as a result of the relationship and partnership. Continue to work with our stakeholders. Councilperson Lawson has a meeting with Broadway corridor businesses.
Let me ask you a question, Mr.
Yes.
Evans. So the $200,000 you gave from the city to the CRA,
I billed them, yes.
you billed the CRA, tell me again.
So the CRA sent a bill to Mr. Sherman.
Oh,
that
I
said-
see.
Yes.
So that $10 million that y'all owe us.
We can work it out. We're still working on it, but.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah, but we want to make sure that, when
It's
we're-
documented,
Right,
yeah.
that is documented,
Yeah.
that there is actually a cost associated with it, and that we have the appropriate transaction.
Madam Chair, how long is that period, Mr. Evans?
We
that
looked
cost?
back, I think from the start of the pandemic, when we started utilizing the space. So, and we're going to have more robust conversation with the council on the space, the utilization of the space, even some of the events that, now that we have the library online, do we need to utilize this space for some of the things that we've been utilizing it just because it's been a convenient venue for us? So doing things with a little bit more intentionality behind it, but I think it was from the start of the pandemic. The other side is continue to survey, like I said, survey our businesses, our stakeholders, what can we do to improve, and then review our AT&T contract. Our service with AT&T is a service that is top of the line. However, it is a very costly contract, and so we're looking at making some tweaks and modifications to that. I'm going to probably skip a couple of these so I don't belabor some of the point, because I know there's some other departments behind me. Perform an audit on the Human Resources Department as it relates to the organizational culture. The internal auditor actually surveyed the departments and has some items that are going to be addressed as part of the goals and objectives for the new HR director. So that preliminary survey has occurred, and so that's going to go into the work plan for the new Human Resources director to really look to change organizational culture and making sure that everyone is performing at the same level, and making sure we drive accountability as a result of the relationship with the employee and the employer. One of the other things that's important, we are definitely striving to make sure all recommendations and all items that were contained in any of our audits that we've received over the last couple of years is fully implemented or the issue is resolved, and we get back to a state where we don't have any notations in our annual audit. So that is something that's important to us. Continue to educate and inform staff about internal controls and concepts, and how do we make sure that we as an agency are following what the policies and procedures. Not in this budget, but I think in subsequent budgets, I would like to have the board consider an ethics and compliance officer, that their job is to look at things from an ethics and a policy standpoint to ensure that once the board adopts the policy and the policy goes into place, or once administration signs the policy, that the policy is adhered to and followed up to drive that accountability. So that's something that is a second phase of our audit function in the agency. Is something that's important, I think, is the growing movement that we see in the field. Continue to review when we look at government stewardship and accountability. Item number 2 is facilitate comprehensive review of revenues versus expenditures to look to address some of the revenue challenges as well as deficits, and how do we project for the next downturn in the economy, because our concern is that it's not necessarily here right now, but there is indications that there may be some challenges that are looming, and how do we prepare for what that looks like. And so being more proactive as it relates to expenditures and revenues, and how we look to address that in the future. Address some of the salary inequities both in the CRA and city. One of the items that we'll be sharing with the board on your Thursday meeting, one will be obviously confirmation of budget direction that you may have, but also how to address some of the salary and compensation issues with regards to your supervisors, managers, and department heads. From the information that I was provided as early as today, there is significant inequities in the system and some challenges with regards to compensation. And it has been the organization's practice to address the bargaining unit employees first, and we have done that. We have one contract that's being voted on tomorrow, and then we begin our negotiation process with PMSA. But the non-reps, there is some inequities and some compression in the system. And so we do want to share with the board some solutions and some ideas that we have with regards to compensating your employees fairly and equitably. Continue to pursue appropriations through the state legislature and the federal government. We know that there's a lot of opportunities that are on the horizon, and making sure that we have a seat at the proverbial table to continue to pursue state appropriations as well as federal monies that are available through the departments. And we are certainly acute into what's happening both at Washington and Tallahassee. And we will be bringing to you probably your second meeting in September, the legislative priorities and the projects that staff has identified for both your state as well as your federal projects or initiatives moving forward. So that item will be coming to you here shortly. Reviewing the utility district's services fee to determine what the appropriate rate increases would be with regards to reasonable justification that's associated with the water treatment plan, and how we prepare for the funding that is necessary to help facilitate that. So we're going to continue to watch that and monitor that. Of course, continue to establish and reestablish some of the programs that we had in place as it relates to our internal audit, to internal auditor, to eliminate fraud, waste, and abuse, and have that hotline that will be managed, and that information will be provided to the internal auditor, and then ultimately go to the audit committee, which will help develop the audit plan. And then develop inventory control system to protect city assets, making sure that we are appropriately tagging and accounting for items that are within the city's control, and making sure that things are accounted for and they're disposed of appropriately. Community engagement and empowerment, continue to pursue, and this is what the board directed staff, is a scientific methodology as it relates to community values and sentiments. So we're going to be moving forward with that, and that's going to be a process that you will be involved in. One of the things as it relates to community engagement and empowerment, one of the things I think the board should seriously consider, we give out roughly about $45,000 to $50,000 in scholarships but we don't require any volunteer contribution or time that persons have to serve the community. With that sizable commitment and that you're doing it on an annual basis, one student can receive up to $4,000 and would never have to step foot in the city of Riviera Beach. And so one of the things I think the board should consider as possible, your next iteration, is requiring a minimum of volunteer hours in the city of Riviera Beach that's documented to be a precursor to receiving the grant funding, to put some sweat equity into the community. So something that the board should consider, but certainly something that staff recommends as we move forward in the next year as it relates to the funding for the scholarship program. Facilitate more meetings regarding everything that we have going on, from Reimagine to proposed fire assessment to utility district. We're going to continue to engage the community in multiple ways, so they are on board with respect to what the major challenges are for the agency, but also so they're informed and they can be part of the process and provide us with their thoughts and ideas. Execute memorandum of understanding between Palm Beach County and City of Riviera Beach. That's currently in the process now. We're in conversations with the county as well as the other municipalities about an MOU that talks about Peanut Island and how we can jointly work together to activate that particular site and some of the benefits associated with Riviera Beach having a seat at the table. So as that gets past the staff level conversations, I certainly will bring that before the board. We will continue to publish our quarterly newsletter, but we're going to have one that's more specific from the city manager that speaks to some of the more substantive items that maybe items that the board has previously acted on or items that will be coming before the board, and that will be something that will be disseminated to the residents. Develop a branding campaign to include the redesign of the city's appearance, development of logo, insignia, improving logistics and operations as it relates to our website and the creation of contact, etc. We're looking at virtual or digital town hall meetings. We've done some makeshift types of meetings, but we think we got a good idea on how to be able to do that and interact with our public in a virtual setting. And that's one thing that COVID has taught us, is that we can find creative ways to engage more people than we've done in the past. So that's been something that's been successful for us. The other thing is we're certainly going to move forward with a State of the City address this year. Unfortunately, COVID canceled our last one, but nonetheless, we're going to be moving forward with respect to that. And one of the other items here that the board will see here in the next couple of meetings is converting the YEP facility into the city's first police substation. We did get the quotes back on that facility, and we'll be able to share that with the board at a future meeting.
Madam Chair.
Yes, go ahead.
We had hoped at some point to have a police substation over at Stony Brook. Is the cost just prohibitive with regard to that? I mean, it would have been nice to have a police presence right there in that area of the city.
From my last conversation with Chief Osgood, they're still working towards that.
Oh, good.
And so once we finalize the numbers, that will be something that will come back before the board.
Thank you.
Yeah. And the last item, or last category, is great neighborhoods. Continue to, we know the digital divide is something that is real, especially in our communities, and addressing some of the disparities with regards to internet access, and that's why the CDBG program is so important, that allows for us to do Wi-Fi throughout the community, especially at our parks that are in the city. We want to create owner-occupied dwellings and a housing rehab program for the citizens of Riviera Beach. We've put $1 million in the budget that helps us start the process, but we want to see which other partners we can bring to the table, because our intent is to pick up about another $1 million from other partners, whether it's community partners or lending institutions that look to work with us on this same particular objective. Skipping one, reviewing the city's aging infrastructure. One of the things that you're going to be seeing is that we're moving forward with a comprehensive analysis that's looking at your roadway network to also include the utilities infrastructure, both on the stormwater and the water and sewer side. So when we do assess a roadway, we have the rational and the scientific nexus as to how we were able to get to the point as it relates to why this roadway is so important for us to move forward with. And so once that study is complete, we will be able to provide that information to the board and then go out to the bond market to obtain money to be able to get our infrastructure. That's a big push for us over the next couple of years, is modernizing and addressing some of the infrastructure that we have in our community. Next is developing a workforce housing initiative. We have a very good program that is very successful through the CRA, and how do we look to have a situation where there's continuity and uniformity? So we even looked at the situation whereby the city would activate the program, but we would pay the CRA to manage that particular function. So it's the same process that persons go through on the CRA side and on the city side. So that's something that we will continue to do. Other major aspect is how do we create that relationship with lending institutions, Palm Beach County, to make sure that we can invest in our community, both from a workforce housing side, but also looking at it from the standpoint that we do want to see if there's lending institutions that are working to provide seed capital or monies to help local businesses when they do get a City of Riviera Beach contract, and they may need startup capital to facilitate whatever the service or whatever the equipment that the city has procured, that there is a relationship with the lending institution that could provide that seed monies to facilitate some upfront money, so they're not waiting for the payment from the city. So we're looking at like revising our stance and our position on that. And the city of West Palm Beach has a very successful program that facilitates that, and looking how to deploy that here in the city of Riviera Beach. Code compliance, continue to improve upon code compliance. We know that that's a major concern that the board and the community has, is how do we develop and continue to improve on community aesthetics. And so we know that the code of compliance is one side, but there's also another side as to what is needed in the community and what are things that we can do to assist on the community beautification efforts. So as it relates to public art, as it relates to streetscape, landscape, and opportunities to receive grants for community or neighborhood improvements. So we're looking at definitely revamping how we handle code enforcement, and then how we look to move forward with something that develops a more aesthetic community, because that was one of the things that came back as part of the survey. So, Madam Chair, that concludes the goals and the accomplishments for fiscal year 2021, as well as the goals and objectives for administration for fiscal year 2022.
Madam Chair.
Yes, go ahead.
Mr. Evans, one thing I don't see here that maybe I missed it, I don't see the development of an economic development plan that would encompass items such as workforce development and the emphasis on tourism, which is one of our major economic drivers in the city. Is there any thought that we would put a position in the budget that would accomplish that, the creation of that plan?
Yes, we currently still have in the budget the economic development manager position. So that would be a position that would look to spearhead a lot of those initiatives and handle that. We've been having internal conversations as about this position. Is it a way to have it as a hybrid where it works in city and CRA and split it, because there's some value to continuity and uniformity with regards to that. And so that may be something that we look to bring forward, but that position would be focused on economic development, tourist development, workforce development, even what are we doing as it relates to retraining our workforce, looking at our workforce, and are we preparing for the jobs of the 21st century. So that particular position is still in the budget, and our intent is to move forward with that position, handling those responsibilities.
Thank you.
I wanted to, really thank you for moving forward with this, because all of the stuff that I see is a part of our strategic planning process. So I really appreciate the fact that you are moving forward with this, and also making sure that, it really sets a vision and a tool for measuring progress, because I think that a lot of times we have a lot of stuff on the plate, but we don't know. We get updates, but there is no measurement of our progress and what we're trying to accomplish. So I really can appreciate that, looking at your goals and your accomplishments, it is complement to our strategic planning process. And I forgot the lady's name who worked with us.
Ms. Leah Gaines.
Yes, Ms. Gaines, and working with us to make sure that we can see these measurements. And speaking of that, I want to ask how we're going to go about developing and deliberating on our new proposed strategies. You know, we talked about your resiliency plan. We talked about, you know, reimagining public safety, community benefits agreements, adopt a street programs. I wanted to know how we're going to move forward, because this is a lot of stuff that we have already. And I know that when we had our last meeting with Ms. Gaines, we talked about some new proposals and how we move forward, but also not just that, but how we measure those goals as we're moving forward.
Right, Madam Chair, so the goals that you all communicated to Ms. Gaines, both in the public settings as well as your individual conversations with her, those items will come back before the board. All those items that you specified will be synthesized and actually identified as part of the City Council's overarching goals and objectives, but then they will be incorporated in whatever department is going to be the department that's going to facilitate that. So, for example, the reimagined public safety, it's a council initiative. However, the sponsoring department or department is going to be legal as well as the police department. And so that will be incorporated in their actual goals and objectives as well. So it will be an add-on to what the departments are proposing.
Right.
But that will all come back before you. It will be adopted in the actual budget document, but the actual document and the discussion that you all had will come back before you for any final tweaks that you all may have.
Yeah, because these accomplishments show, you know, the progress that we made even during the pandemic. So kudos to you and your staff, especially you, for making sure that we are following these plans of actions that we spend all this time on Saturdays and Sundays talking about, but we actually can see them happening through your accomplishments and what you give back to us. So I really appreciate that part.
Madam Chair, just you used the word resiliency, and it made me remember that we had, thank you so much, we are participating in a big project with the entire Palm Beach North Chamber in terms of resiliency, we know that. But I heard your friend General Honore today and a number of other people, because, you know, he's well involved with the recovery after this latest horrible episode in Louisiana. In any case, they talked about, one of the commentators talked about mandating generators for new gas stations, banks, pharmacies, and so on. I think that's something we have to take a look at. As much as we don't want to stifle any small businesses and we don't want to hurt any small businesses in any way, many of the new construction that might be taking place in terms of those, particularly those three areas, pharmacies, banks, and gas stations, so that they can have access to power after an event like a catastrophic hurricane, because those are the kinds of things that we need to keep moving forward on. I mean, we can't be in a situation where we can't get gas, we can't get money, and we can't get bills. So just something to think about.
Absolutely. All right.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Thank
Go
you so
ahead,
much.
sir.
Thank you. Mr. Evans, thank you for this last year. This pandemic has been trying on our entire community, and you've handled it very well. You were exemplary in regards to how things were operated, so thank you, sir. I was just honored to see some of the things that you addressed, our success in training, telling our story, branding campaign, our lending institutes for seed money. Those are things that your council has asked you, and you literally hit them head on. So the AA rating, I have to give you just as much credit as we gave Mr. Sherman, because you were the one that was integral in making sure that we increased our rating. The two things that I wanted to take a look at, we spoke briefly at a few council meetings in reference to possibly bringing a ambassador program, a citywide ambassador program from the CRA. Is that something that we can identify and look at in regards to this coming year?
Yes, actually, the item that's going to come before you at Wednesday's meeting is actually authorizing the creation of that ambassador program. It's under the title of Enhanced Code Enforcement,
Nice.
but that's what that program is. It's going to be an ambassador program.
Sorry, our agenda review is not till tomorrow, so I appreciate that update. Thank you. And then the two things, American Rescue Plans. I know our funds got increased. There's an article that I forwarded over to you. It was in reference to how some of the spending was done in West Palm Beach in regards to bonus programs. Especially what I wanted to take a look at was the vaccination incentive for our employees. I know we spoke about that briefly in the meeting, but they actually implemented that. So that may be something that we want to look at with some of those additional dollars, even if we just look at our full staff and how much we could incentivize our current employees and the ones that are currently vaccinated with giving them those same incentives. Those are something we could possibly look at. And then the last thing was the water plant. I'm not sure how feasible it is. I know that we have our consultant reviewing our documents, but if we could look at that September 15th meeting and that UD meeting to possibly visit that water plant solicitation, that would be great for us, because we are moving the city forward based upon this presentation. There's nothing that anyone can say that we haven't been moving this forward. So I just want to keep that train moving. Thank you so much, Mr. Evans. Thank you for this year.
No problem.
Thank you. Any other questions for city administration?
Madam Chair,
Yes, go ahead.
I just wanted to thank Mr. Evans and for leading this entire administration through the pandemic. He had a lot of accomplishments with his departments that, you know, unfortunately, having been on the board for a while, I can't even recall a time when we've had so many accomplishments, and to listen to them and have them written out specifically really speaks volumes. And so that just speaks to his dedication to making sure that our city is in the forefront and not always following behind others. We're always in the lead and people are following behind us. So I just want to say thank you. And of course to the council for us working together and putting forth these efforts to have him carry out this stuff for us. So thank you so much.
Appreciate it. Thank you. It's certainly a team effort. I can't thank the folks on the team. They are exceptional. You know, they're there for the phone calls at, you know, odd hours and the emails that have no punctuations in the middle of the night, and so they're there to help make sure that we move the city forward. So we're all committed. We're all in this for the long haul, but it doesn't happen without leadership. If we don't have a board that's willing to address some of the challenges that you all were faced with, we don't get a third of this accomplished. And if we had not had to deal with the pandemic that we're currently dealing with, I think the sky's the limit with regards to what we can do as an agency. And so we look forward to continuing to move forward, and the board has been exceptional with regards to providing direction and perspective to the staff so we can move forward accordingly. So thank you for your leadership, your commitment, the many Saturdays, emails, conversations, all that. We appreciate it, and it's been very refreshing, and it's been great to be part of the team.
Thank you, and kudos to your Assistant Director over the Utility District, Ms. Deirdre Jacobs, for her excellent work and keeping the district moving forward. We really appreciate that.
Absolutely.
And thank you for you and your entire staff.
All right. The next presentation is going to be made by the Dean of Citizens Leadership Academy and the Assistant to the City Manager, Ms. Marcia Noel.
I like that title.
It's growing on me. All right, good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board, City Attorney, Mr. Evans. It is my pleasure to present tonight on behalf of Communications. I don't like that I go after Mr. Evans. There was a whole applause and everything, you know. But nonetheless, I'm excited because this past year has been a learning opportunity and an opportunity for this department to really show what we've been made of, especially amid a worldwide pandemic. Communication services are critical to everything that we do. We practically touch all of the departments and we engage with the community while balancing various priorities. So first, I'm going to start with our fiscal year 21 highlights and accomplishments. So under prosperous, resilient, and sustainable economy, the first, we've improved media relations by obtaining local media coverage for positive events that have taken place in the city, many of which include the water tank art mural, the opening of the library and the Emerging Community Center. We had coverage on the redevelopment in the city through the Reimagine Riviera Beach initiative, the building inspections, in response to the Surfside collapse, Amazon moving into the community. There's just a list of so many things that are online that if you did a quick search, you'd be so surprised to see how the media over the past year has been sharing information about what we're doing in the city. And I think that's a nice change in tone, given some of the issues and challenges we've received in the past. But I think moving forward, because we've been doing so much work as a city, it's important that our media, that we engage them and that we maintain and build relationships with them, as they are an arm for us to share our story and to communicate to the community all the great work that's being done. In the second category, great neighborhoods. We've issued our first paper version of what was our quarterly newsletter by mail. We really were trying it out to see how it would be responded to. I know that in the past we've had something like this, and so we got a lot of great feedback from members of the community who often are perhaps not online or following us on our website or social media, to receive something in the mail that basically summarizes all of the most recent great work and activities that are taking place has been quite encouraging. So we want to reinstate that, and we want to make sure that we do it maybe on a monthly basis so information remains relevant to the residents. Secondly, we've distributed several electronic newsletters, more recently on a bi-weekly basis through our Constant Contact. And at the time of submitting these slides, we were at 1,700 emails. Now we're over 1,800. And I think that's in part due to the promotion of the subscription to this newsletter, using the various meetings and sharing this information with individuals so that they can stay up to date on what's going on in the city. Next is operational excellence. First, we created a media service request form for internal use by city departments. This was our first time approach to try to streamline all the various requests that we get in communications for the various services that we offer, from promoting to press releases to video production, broadcasting, and the list goes on. And so our goal is to kind of revise that form a bit, but then just encourage the use of it even the more with city departments moving forward, so that we can also quantify and gauge our progress over time. The next, we've maintained regular emergency operation conference calls and communications regarding the COVID-19 pandemic. So we've continued the calls with employees, updates with the community, and various other activities even throughout the pandemic, even as things were opening up, just to keep folks engaged as new developments occurred, such as the vaccinations. Next, we provided communication support such as audio, visual equipment, promotion, video recording, broadcasting services for various city events and meetings. And after speaking with Mr. Stevens, our wonderful communications manager here, he did share that he believes that we're doing at least actually over 100 broadcasting and video production services. And if you actually quantify it, if you look at all the meetings, public meetings, special meetings, city events, advisory board meetings, and this is just a team of 2 individuals that work in production for the city, producing so much work. I give a hats off to Walter and Mr. Hudson, and also the individual that also supports us, I believe, on a contractual basis, but nonetheless, he's the extra support we need to keep this train.
Walter.
So just to put things into perspective, we're a small department, but we do a lot. Next, we provide graphic design services to for city purposes, whether we're contracting that service through external graphic designing artists or we're doing it ourselves. We provide those services as well. In addition, under government stewardship and accountability, we've worked closely with IT and other staff members to acquire what was mentioned earlier, Granicus Peak, our new agenda preparation software, which will be coming online pretty soon. But our participation in that project was really to provide the recommendation and making sure that that device was going to work both on the communications end and on the user-friendly end, both for the members of the public and also on the back end for city staff. The next category, community engagement and empowerment. We implemented a new emergency notification system, which we all know, Code Red, and so far we've obtained over 9,000 contacts, and that number does grow every time we're doing big pushes to get folks signed up into that system. It has proven to be very helpful. Folks are excited that they can get text messages, phone calls, and emails from the city regarding critical alerts, so we're proud of that accomplishment. Next, we've organized, promoted, and recorded major community engagement activities, such as the Charter Amendment community meetings, promoting the 2021 municipal election, waste management community meetings, the Reimagine Riviera Beach workshops, the water tank art mural community meetings, and so forth. So there's a lot of work that we do to promote these kinds of activities, in addition to sometimes developing the program and also facilitating these activities. And then lastly, we've implemented the 15 public awareness and engagement activities as part of our 2020 census. All right, moving along. Fiscal 2022 goals. Under prosperous, resilient, and sustainable economy, just as the city manager mentioned earlier, we understand the priority of rebranding the city, and so we want to do so through a rebranding plan, and our goal is to engage the right entity to assist us, because it is a pretty heavy lift. As the manager said, it could take up to a year, but an initiative like that would be primarily implemented through the communications department. Next, great neighborhoods. We would like to create an online photo gallery of the city activities and events that demonstrate the vitality of our community. We do have social media accounts and what have you, where we're storing a lot of our photos and sharing a lot of our photos and videos, but I think it's helpful to have something on our website, being that our website is a main information hub for the community that they can go to, visitors can go to, easily access a photo gallery that shares all the information and really communicates what we're about and the things that we're accomplishing. By the end of the day, like they say, a picture can mean 1,000 words, and we want those words to tell our story. For great neighborhoods, for operational excellence, we like to develop a communications policy for the city that provides guidance on various aspects of communication, such as interaction with the media, use of the city logo, style guide, for designs of all city materials and promotional items, a website content management, ADA compliance, and so forth. Next, we want to establish bi-weekly communication teams meetings to review and improve existing processes and team building. This is going to be critical because obviously as much work as we do and as much great work that we do, there's still room for improvement, and this is more so an internal process that we want to establish so that we make sure that we're improving along the way and that we're implementing whatever's necessary to keep us going and to reach all of these goals that we set for ourselves. Lastly, establish regular training opportunities and certification for the communications team, using both online and in-person form trainings and membership with public information officer type associations. Also engaging local networks of PIOs, I think it's critical. Most recently, I've been able to engage folks from Boynton Beach, Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office, individuals who have an extensive background in public information and who, we're just sharing best practices, looking at, what our experiences have been and what's working, what's the trend, what's ideas and innovative ways in which we can improve our service delivery within our respective agencies. Next, government stewardship and accountability. We want to develop a training video that will help our online visitors better navigate the website and access information. Like Mr. Evans said, we're proud that we have improved our website because it certainly is 1,000 times better than what we had prior to it. But it certainly can use improvement in terms of when individuals go to our website, we are a very large agency in that we have tons of services, programs, projects. I mean, we have tons of departments and services, and so it's important that we find a way to help people access the information that we're making available to them. And so I believe by creating some form of quick, easy to understand video that someone can click and have a better idea as to how they can maximize their time on the website. And then lastly, community engagement and empowerment. We want to develop a community highlight section of our city's newsletters to recognize individuals, businesses, and agencies that are making a positive impact in the community. And we believe in doing something like this, as simple as it sounds, it can actually create a sense of belongingness to the community, and it's not just the city of Riviera Beach as a entity that allows for our city to be the great city that it is. It's the individuals who are investing time, resources, what have you, in their own respect to help bring our community together. Secondly, we want to increase responsiveness to community input on the city's social medias account by replying to messages within a 48-hour window. And we say that because one area oftentimes I believe that government or any agency may not necessarily be taking advantage of is the opportunity to engage with individuals who are engaging with us on social media. Again, we are a pretty small team, but nonetheless, our goal is to set a standard where folks can expect a reply when they're asking questions or making certain comments on any videos, flyers, and what have you, because by doing so, folks know that, hey, if I ask a question, they're going to answer me, and folks may likely come back to your page and re-engage with you. In addition, we want to increase the frequency of social media posts to at least 2 or 3 per day on our Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and so forth, just to keep the activity and the engagement going. And then lastly, we want to improve media relations by contacting, every local agency that's within our county at least once a week via press release. Again, there's so much going on, and so any additional avenue to communicate to the community is going to be at our advantage, as so long as we maintain and build those relationships. And so we have to make sure that we have information that's ready to go that we can share with others who can kind of be the extra hands and feet for us. With that being said, that completes my presentation for communications. So at this time, if we have any questions or comments, I'm here to take them.
I have a question. I'm confused. I thought Walter was communications. Where is he? I'm not on. You're over communications now? I don't understand.
Madam Chair, if I may, since Walter is in the back of the room tending to the meeting, the goals and objectives as that was worked on by administration to include Walter as well as myself in the goals and objectives. So Ms. Noel is presenting the items, but everyone works in collaboration. So
I'm just asking, is she over communications?
No, she's not over
Okay.
communications, no.
All right, very good.
Madam Chair.
Go ahead.
Speaking of Walter, I just wanted to say thank you because he's been such a great partner in this oral history project, and I just wanted to say thank you because I know he spent, you talked about 100 videotapes, and that's great, but the things he does in addition to the meetings are just a wonderful asset. So thank you very much, Walter. Appreciate it.
Yes, shout out to Walter and his crew. Very good work. I don't think that Walter is back there, but if you're listening at home, Walter, we really cannot do it without you. Thank you so much. Any other questions for communications? Thank you for your presentation. Next, Mr. Evans.
Yes, Madam Chair. Ms. Noel will also be making the presentation on behalf of Ms. Grimsley for Youth Empowerment Center. Ms. Grimsley is on a much-needed vacation.
Okay, very good.
Oh, that's me. Okay. All right.
And Ms. Noel, since we have this in front of us, you don't have to go piece by piece. You can kind of highlight, some of the areas, because,
Okay.
yeah, we have it right in front of us.
I understand. Okay, well,
Thank you.
what I will do is, because I don't know if I'm prepared to do to provide, short snippets on her sections. I was just going to go through each of the lines, not to explain anything, just read them, to be honest. I know. I don't know if it's formal because we have viewers. I'm not sure. But I can read kind of fast now. I talk fast, so I can read.
No, you don't have to go fast. Just kind of give us, an outline of what's happening. And this should have been attached to the people, for the people at home as well. This should have been part of the backup online. Thank you, but go ahead.
Okay. Operational excellence. YP is maintained serving 52 community youth and families as an optimum level by way of implementation of virtual classes and crisis case management services during COVID-19. They've implemented mental health services to youth and families in the areas of coping, individual and group virtual counseling and management, successfully created and changed the overarching name of Youth Empowerment Program to Emerging Community Center to express that services are offered to citizens of all ages for government stewardship and accountability. They've completed and fully compliant with the Palm Beach County Youth Services Desk Audit of Youth Empowerment Program for community engagement and empowerment. They've secured an additional two-year MOU agreement with Palm Beach County Adult and Community Education to implement GED educational services provided to the Riviera Beach community, as well as to provide financial payment to Florida Training Services, Inc. for vocational training for up to 25 career pathway students yearly. And then they've developed partnership with Florida Atlantic University to implement STEM programming to students of Riviera Beach. For their 2022 goals for prosperous, resilient, and a sustainable economy, they'll continue to leverage resources in relationship with the Palm Beach County for continued support of the Youth Empowerment and Career Pathways Program. For great neighborhoods, they'll work with the CSC, Palm Beach County Safety and Justice Committees, to develop a youth and young adult resource guide for by zip code to address out-of-school time gap activities for youth, resources for parents, and leadership enhancements for young adults. For operational excellence, update standard operational procedures to achieve consistency within city administration and Palm Beach County Youth Services, provide excellent customer service to internal and external stakeholders, and implement a stakeholder survey to gauge overall service delivery and to identify any areas of service improvement needed. For government service and accountability, they've identified additional funding streams to support the programs and services of youth empowerment and career pathway emerging community center, STEM lab, cafe, and technology programs. They'll implement employability training program for up to 60 youth and young adults ages 18 to 24 through expanded partnership with Career Source to be held on-site at the new library and youth empowerment location. For government stewardship and accountability, they'll implement hospitality, barista, entrepreneurship training programs through the next Gen Cafe located at the new library and youth empowerment. They'll develop and expand private partnerships that will train, employ, and complement city funding for up to 20 youth and young adults. Lastly, for community engagement and empowerment, they'll maintain public access to information, inspiration programs and services via Facebook and Instagram. They'll continue branding and rebranding of the Youth Empowerment and Emerging Community Center services to include uniformed website design to mirror the city's online presence. Next, they'll provide 4 community engagement activities to provide a community service engagement platform to youth and young adults, parents, and citizens at large. They'll coordinate a 6-month community engagement literacy program for youth ages 3 to 11 to be provided by a selected community agency around Florida native animals to occur once monthly, which is Saturdays, within the library youth empowerment building. Participating youth will take the monthly reading book home to begin building their at-home library. They'll establish a 1-year education partnership with a community provider to provide educational enhancement services to youth, young adults, and citizens in the following areas: tutoring, testing strategies, college boot camp, career pathway access, and literacy. And finally, they'll provide a certified community testing center at the library, emerging community center to afford youth, young adults, and citizens the ability to take certified tests. And that is all.
Thank you. Any questions for youth empowerment?
Madam Chair?
Yes, go ahead, sir.
Just real quick, Ms. Noel, real quick, back to your communications. Is there anything that we can look at in regards to focusing directly on our senior populace? Some of our things that our senior population.
Okay.
Some of the things that they're not able to do is social media. They don't have as much access or utilize the internet as easily or readily available. What other options can we look at for our senior population, especially our Heron Estates population? Ms. Alice and Ms. Gwen do a great job over there at Lindsay Davis, but there's a lot of seniors in our community that may not have that direct internet access. So have we looked at possible mailers, door-to-door, street team, people that can kind of engage, just to make sure that they're as engaged as possible?
Right. So when I talked about the physical newsletters, that's kind of one way in which we can kind of engage seniors, because they'll get basically like a snapshot or a recap of all the things that's been going on in the city. In terms of every outreach opportunity that we do, mailing can get quite expensive. And so I've had to engage the procurement department because we're looking at building a solicitation to make sure that we have funds available specifically for mailing. And that way we can better budget and prepare for instances where it's preferably, better to, push out mailers or physical material to the community. Because to your point, there are individuals who are not following us on social media and they're not going to our website for whatever reason. Now, thankfully, through Code Red, we have had quite a few people, especially seniors, sign up. So they're getting text messages and phone calls, preferably, obviously, for emergency alerts. But for activities and updates on what we're doing, that's where the newsletter kind of come into play. But to utilize it in every promotional activity can kind of get quite expensive, but we can kind of budget to prepare for those particular activities that we would prefer or where it's most best to use a mailer.
I think the Code Red option, if we could possibly do the training or engagements with our seniors, going directly to them, for example, like going into Heron Estates, going into some of these complexes,
Yeah,
and
that
saying,
too.
hey,
Yeah.
let's just give them the insight and direction to have a small community charrette to say this is what we're utilizing for our marketing, just to make sure that they're engaged in everything that's going out. And in regards to the mailers, I agree, they're very costly. So utilizing possibly the utility bills or any options that we could put, since it's already going out, what is it increased in postage if we add in a newsletter or some marketing material or events that's coming up, because they get the phone bill, the water bill every month. So what can we utilize that water bill to incorporate into those senior population? And then also taking into consideration that everybody doesn't get a water bill. So some of our high risers don't. So how do we attack them? Possibly going over to their association meetings,
Right.
and just delivering and dropping off letters so that they can have them at their board meetings, and also the condos can actually post them at their monthly meetings. So once they post them at the association or condo meetings, whatever material that we have, we're going deep into the community, because social media is a great tool, but then I want to make sure that we go under every stone, so any decisions that's being made is engaged with all residents. So those HOA meetings, the association meetings, the communication for the water bill, those are all things I think that would help the engagement with the residents.
Certainly. Yeah, no, I agree. I think that sometimes it's better to engage folks by going to where they are.
Right.
Oftentimes we're asking them to come to all of our meetings, but we see quite a bit of engagement when we come to our communities, neighborhoods. We do have, I think, lists of HOA property management individuals who we can also contact. We've done it for the 2020 census. So that's how we were able to kind of station ourselves in different places. And we got quite a few folks to come out, and I think that that's maybe a strategy we can continue moving
I think
forward.
that'll get the most engagement from our residents, and that just going to them will really help. And then also getting them really engaged and involved with the Code Red is going to be a great option.
Yeah.
But thank you for letting me to go back. Thank you, Madam Chair, for going back to communications.
Thank you. Any other questions for communications or for youth empowerment? Thank you for your presentations. Mr. Evans?
Yes, Madam Chair. At this particular time, we have a Deputy City Manager, Ms. Elizabeth McBride, that will make the presentation for Civil Drug Court, and then followed by Mr. Ori Buller for our reentry program.
Civil Drug Court is on vacation as well?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, Ms. Scott is on vacation for this week. Basically, on behalf of Ms. Scott, I'm here to present for the Civil Drug Court. The Civil Drug Court has been in operation almost 30 years. If I remember correctly, it was one of the first of drug courts created in Palm Beach County, and it has been the one to survive, I guess, or with the ending of some of the other ones. Primarily for operational excellence. Okay. They do maintain a first appearance for their clients for 5 days a week. And since October 1st through June 30th, 2021, they have seen 178 cases, and their clientele range from juveniles to individuals over 50 years of age. They have also enhanced their proceedings to be able to with technology so they could engage in more virtual activities in response to COVID. And also they have, which resulted in a reduction of person in place. They have a very comprehensive COVID cleaning process between their cases for courts on Saturday with the judges there. They've also implemented inventory control measures to monitor and protect their asset. And throughout this period of COVID, their recidivism rate has continued to stay at 6.2%. Their audit by Palm Beach County Public Safety Department found the court to be in compliance with their terms of their agreement for community engagement and empowerment. They too have developed a partnership with Career Source of Palm Beach County to identify training and employment opportunities for clients. And this year, they participated in the celebration of National Substance Abuse Recovery Month. The goals that have been established for 2022 consist of, for the prosperous, resilient, and sustainable economy, that they will continue to leverage their resources and relationships with the 15th Judicial Circuit, the State Attorney's Office, and Palm Beach County for the continued support of the Civil Drug Court. In great neighborhoods, they look forward to developing a comprehensive resource guide of programs and the services that they offer, in addition to services offered by some of their partner agencies to provide for residents of the city. Under operational excellence, they plan to update their standard operating procedures, continue with their excellent customer service for their internal and external stakeholders, and also continue to use their stakeholder survey to get an overall gauge of their service delivery for the program. Under government stewardship and accountability, the program hopes to look for additional funding streams to support the programs and services of the Civil Drug Court, implement an electronic control client check-in system to track the number of client service in addition to reporting staff delivery of services, and continue to maintain technological advancements of the drug court. For community engagement and empowerment, some of the goals are to maintain public access to information regarding the programs and services via Facebook, continue to brand the Civil Drug Court services to include a uniform website design that mirrors the city's online presence, present semi-annual introductory community sessions virtually, and real-time sharing information on the programs and services offered by the Civil Drug Court. And next year will be their 30th year in existence, and they hope to have some celebration in honor of the number of years they've been in existence. Madam Chair, that is the end of the drug.
Thank you. Any questions for Civil Drug Court presentation? Thank you for your presentation. Mr. Evans?
Madam Chair, if I can have Mr. Ori Buller for the reentry program for that.
All right, good evening, everyone. Save the best for last here.
We just said that.
Yes, yes, yes. So I'll go through a few things. I know you all have it here, so I won't read through everything, but I'll try to highlight some key areas. And so just to begin, we successfully acquired, under prosperous, resilient, and sustainable economy, we successfully acquired an additional $104,000 from the Florida Department of Corrections for the facilitation of our on-the-job training program, which is where we work with our construction, and we've expanded that, and I'll get to that a little later. We've also secured funding for 3 members to be trained as trainers for mental health first aid. And so all three are trained and they can conduct mental health first aid classes in our community. And we're looking to roll those out in October. We move on down to great neighborhoods. We continue to partner with the Palm Beach County Public Safety Department, and we provided Samsung tablets with internet access for our staff to virtually communicate with our clients. And so as we went through COVID, we were able to also get web cameras for our staff to be able to speak to our clients and those that were impacted by COVID. Some of our clients actually contracted COVID, and we were able to kind of continue to meet with them as we provided them with those technological options to be able to stay in touch with the team members. Operational excellence, we've developed individualized on-the-job training program to extend to various occupations, including clerical, reentry advocate, peer mentoring, and also retail. Government stewardship and accountability, we completed a full evaluation of the Integrated Reentry and Employment Strategies Project. Florida Atlantic University Criminal Justice Department conducted that evaluation. Throughout our community engagement and empowerment, we facilitated a Reentry Month panel of local leaders, reentry practitioners, and returning citizens discussing employment, mental health, housing options, and it was broadcast on PBC TV 20 for the county. And actually, Chairperson Lanier was actually on our panel, and Mayor Felder was conducted our welcome. We hosted a Juneteenth voter registration event for returning citizens in response to the Amendment 4 legislation. And we've collaborated with Palm Beach County Career Source and Florida Impact to end hunger to apply for funding to mitigate barriers associated with returning citizens assessing the SNAP program or the food stamp program. And so we're waiting to hear back from that. And we partnered with the Lord's Place and Center for Courts and Corrections Research and RTI International to provide technical assistance for Second Chance Act grant project that we received on last year. So we're receiving technical assistance for that grant. And as we move forward to our goals for FY 2022, we look to strengthen the collaborative relationships with Palm Beach County Public Safety Department, the Sheriff's Office, Florida Department of Corrections, Gulfstream Goodwill, and the Lord's Place to increase our funding opportunities. We're also looking to partner with the Riviera Beach CDC to create and maintain the community gardens while providing training opportunities for our returning citizens. They'll be actually working with the CDC in that project. We're also going to conduct an annual returning citizen conference to connect clients to various community resources, and it'll be something that's done in our community, and we have not had anything like this, so we're looking at conducting this in January of 2022 to kick off what will be our 15th year of existence in this community. Operational excellence, we're providing information for the complete update of the Renew client database, which captures all of our client information. And that database is the one that we use to access all our case notes and everything, and that's provided by the county. And so we were looking at updating that, and it's called Renew 2.0. We also want to make team interaction survey available on the city website for the public to complete and submit to ensure operational excellence. So we want to have those surveys available for folks that come into our program, they're a part of our program or founding members of our program, just to provide a little survey so they can let us know how we're doing and what ways we can improve. Government stewardship and accountability. We're submitting an application for the Reentry Center to be evaluated by the Florida Atlantic University Criminal Justice Department and other research partners because we want to continue to be evaluated and to know how our program is doing. And so that's paramount for us as we move forward. We're looking to apply for additional funding for peer mentoring and reentry advocate positions through the Palm Beach County Public Safety Department. And we're looking to continue to leverage our county funding across all of our programs to enhance the impact of the city funds. And so as you all know, we're also receiving funds from the county, so we want to just make sure that we're good stewards of all the funds that we receive in addition to the city's funds. Community engagement and empowerment. We want to facilitate Reentry Month activities to ensure community awareness and engagement. We typically have reentry month activities for our clients, but we want to open that up to community members that might want to come out and find out about our program and learn more about reentry. We look to select and highlight a local returning citizen each month that's making an impact on this community, and we'll call it the Returning Citizen of the Month. We have a lot of men and women that come back and they're released from incarceration, and they do wonderful, wonderful things in this community, and we want to be able to highlight them so the city can see, the community residents can see what they're doing to further the cause of reentry in our area. And lastly, we want to create a reentry council within the city to provide meaningful discourse on reentry issues and generate community-based solutions for recidivism reduction. And so we're looking at putting that together in January and just basically have a council that would meet quarterly just to kind of give us ideas and solutions, and just so we can let them know what's going on in the reentry world. We're part of the Palm Beach County Reentry Task Force, but we would like to have our own in this area as it relates to reentry. And one final thing also is that we're looking at we've actually just started our project Clean Start. I'm not sure if you all have heard about it. Thanks to Chairperson Lanier for her support in this, and we're looking at taking on all of the city fleet and providing detailing services for the city's fleet. And so the city has over 300 vehicles. As of now, we started August 2nd, so our clients are in. We have 8 gentlemen that are working right over at the public safety building, and we started August 2nd, and they've probably washed about 105 cars so far. And so we're providing them with an opportunity for rapid employment, and it's transitional employment. So when men and women are released, they're able to come in, we do our assessment, and we can put them right to work. While they're working there, we're working on their resume, mock interviews, and connected them to long-term employment. And so this will just provide an opportunity for them to brush up on some of their skills, and while we're working on them, they can actually be bringing home some money to take care of the bills that they have while they're learning other skills. So we're excited about that. It also helps us to reduce some expenses that the city has incurred in outsourcing, the car washing and car detailing services for the city. And that is all I have. I appreciate you all's time, and I really want to thank you all. This board has been extremely supportive of our reentry program, and I really want to thank you all for that, and the city manager and his team. Moving forward, we work with a hard population, and a lot of folks aren't really supportive, so it's great to have a board and a management team that's supportive of our program as we move forward.
Madam Chair.
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you so much, Mr. Bullitt, for the work you do. You do great work. I was at the Palm Beach County Community and Policing Dialogue Action Forum on Saturday morning from 9 to noon. Ron Dixon was there. William Freeman was there, who was a great asset to your organization, I might say. And it struck me, there were 9 different communities represented, and we broke into breakout sessions. So I obviously was in the Riviera in West Palm Beach. They gave us 3 action items, and we selected one of those. It was very close between 2 of them. We selected one of them, and it was something about having an informational campaign to assist returning citizens to have more information. But it seems like that's exactly what you're doing here, conducting a returning citizens conference, creating a reentry council. So I'm sure that because Mr. Dixon and Mr. Freeman were there, there's going to be some synergy, there's going to be some conversation between this community and policing group and your organization, or at least I would hope so.
Yes, definitely. I'm actually on that board, and yeah. So with that, we met for about 6 weeks, I believe.
Yes, at least I think it was 6 weeks, yeah.
Yep.
So I couldn't participate in those, but I was happy to be there on Saturday. But the thing that interested me, and the one that I voted for, was educating the business community, the third one, educating the business community about the value of hiring returning citizens and then engaging in job fairs. So naturally, I committed us, colleagues, I committed us to helping out with that process so that we could really begin to host job fairs and have some way to educate the business community about you know, how important it is to hire returning citizens to reduce recidivism and so on, and the value of returning citizens. So I committed you and the rest of us.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And those are really important topics, especially in the business community, because
Yes.
if you look into some research, they see that returning citizens are more loyal
Yes.
to the business community because they know that they only have that one chance. So oftentimes they'll stay on. So if the business community can kind of be notified of that, I think it'll be great. And we're looking at doing that.
Yes.
Madam Chair?
I'm
Yes,
sorry,
go ahead,
just to
sir.
finish up, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
So I have a very strong relationship with the Palm Beach North Chamber, and I would be happy to arrange for you and your team to come maybe and make a presentation either to the Government Affairs Committee that I'm on or the Economic Development Committee. So let's talk about that.
Definitely. I appreciate it.
Yes, go ahead, Mr. Lawson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Bullitt, absolute amazing program that you guys started with the Clean Start. That is awesome. I love that you and Councilwoman Lanier put that on the table, because I'm just trying to identify our detailing contract or budget that we had previously. Either Mr. Evans or Mr. Sherman, what was our total cost annually on detailing?
Madam Chair, if I may?
Yes, go ahead.
Just for police alone, it was about 25,000. And, you know, when you look at the entire fleet, it was roughly probably close to 35 to 40,000. And in some cases, there were situations where vehicles weren't being washed for months. So now it's a requirement that they have to go through and get their vehicles washed on a frequent basis. But the projected savings is at minimum $25,000.
And in addition to the savings, just passing those dollars on and giving opportunities to our returning citizens, that's phenomenal. That's just empowering our residents and this program. So I absolutely love that program and love the work you've been doing for the last year. So any additional direction or support that you need for this program, you let us know. And I love that you guys were able to implement that. So thank you. Thank you, Mr. Bullitt, and thank you, Madam Chair, for that.
Thank you. Any other questions for our reentry? And I thank you so much, Ori, for coming to us with this information, and also making this Clean and Start, be very successful. When I talk about reimagining public safety, this is what I'm talking about. This is taking people who are just getting out of prison, who will have a job when they get out. There's a very less likelihood of them, committing additional crimes because they have a job now. So this is kind of what we talk about when we talk about reimagining public safety and making sure that people who are returning citizens, who have paid their debt to society, are able to come in and have gainful employment to be able to move their lives further along. So it is something that I'm really proud of. I'm really proud of you and your team for doing it, and we really appreciate the fact that the hard work that you do with this program. It is very much needed. Thank you so much. Any other questions for Reimagine? Any other questions for the reentry program? With that being said, thank you so much for your presentation. Mr. Evans, you can close us out, please.
Yes. Madam Chair and members of the board, that concludes our goals and objectives presentation for fiscal year 2021 as it relates to accomplishments and our goals and objectives. Tomorrow we will get into the budget numbers for each of the departments, so all the department directors will be here to share the numbers and their modifications, and then on Thursday is when we will get clarity from the board as it relates to any outstanding questions, and then talk about compensation and wages with regards to your personnel for fiscal year 2022. And so that concludes staff's presentation for this evening, and I believe the city attorney will need some time as well in this meeting, Madam Chair.
All right, very good. We'll start with the city manager for your comments, Mr. Evans.
No, Madam Chair.
City attorney?
Yes, Madam Chair, 2 items. One is I will be in the office tomorrow during the day, but I will not be at the meeting tomorrow. I had a prior personal commitment. Mr. Evans has agreed to present the city attorney's budget for me. And then secondly, I have an announcement of a closed executive session. Pursuant to Florida Statute 286.0118D, public meetings and records, and in a desire to obtain advice concerning litigation, I am requesting a time that the City Council is available for a closed executive session in the matter of Lady March Goldwire versus City of Riviera Beach, Case number 9-18-CV-81285. Trial in this matter was held from Monday, August 9, 2021 through Monday, August 16, 2021, which resulted in a jury verdict. Due to some discrepancies in the completed jury verdict form, the city anticipates filing post-trial motions related to this issue. I would like to request a closed executive session with the council to discuss this matter in order to obtain council direction. Are you available on Wednesday, September 1st at 5:00 p.m. for the session?
Yes.
Therefore, a closed executive session will be held on the first day of September 2021 at 5 p.m. at the Marina Event Center, 190 East 13th Street, Riviera Beach, Florida 33404, in the case of Lady March Goldwire versus City of Riviera Beach, case number 9-18-CV-81285. Those persons in attendance will be City Attorney Dawn Nguyen and/or Lina Busby, Senior Assistant City Attorney, Special Counsel Don Stevens of Olds & Stevens, PA, Mayor Felder, members of the City Council, City Manager Jonathan Evans. The subject matter of the closed executive session shall be restricted to discrepancies in the completed jury verdict form and filing of post-trial motions on behalf of the City of Riviera Beach. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Miller Anderson, any comments?
No, I don't have any, thank you.
Mr. Lawson?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to announce that September 13th at 11 a.m., I will be hosting a business luncheon. It's going to be the Reimagine edition, Business Lunch and Learn. We'll be speaking to the businesses on Broadway Corridor to discuss the direction of what is happening with Reimagine. So that will be September 13th at 11 a.m., and it'll be a luncheon. So we're asking our residents to RSVP, if they can RSVP via the city website or with my legislative aide, Mr. Javaris Jackson, at 561-346-2026. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. McCoy?
No, Madam Chair.
Dr. Botel?
No, thank you.
And with myself, our meeting is adjourned.